We didn't do it by the microphone. It's kind of cheers. Yeah. All right.
Cheers.
Welcome to episode 80 of the Bourbon and BS podcast. Tonight we've got Rob Wilson. I'm not even going to say what company is you, because we talked about this before actually recording, and you guys can introduce yourself. I'm going to say Rob Wilson and Ryan Gallimore.
Rob Wilson, Midwest rep extraordinaire for Rocky Patel Premium Cigars.
Are you going to talk like that all night?
Yeah, we doing that?
God damn.
You're going to kill me.
This thing's going to go 3 hours just because Rob's talking like that.
Ryan Gallimore, I'm with United Custom Distribution. We're a premium cigar distributor out of Southfield, Michigan.
Southfield in the house.
And what are you guys doing in town tonight?
Ryan?
Come do a podcast.
Oh, yeah. Special trip for this?
No, we're out selling cigars, out promoting different brands, especially Rocky Patel, I guess, these days.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
I like how you say, I guess. Right. I guess.
Right. That's the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
All the Rocky Patel is half off at UCD right now. So.
Make sure you smoke Rocky Patel Liga Privadas. They are.
Yes.
Yes.
We're out doing a cigar tour, hanging out. I think Rob lives in the area, though, right?
You are correct. Yeah, I just live up the street from Mr. Crane here. And
you're not too far.
So it's easy to pop in when I get the pleasure of actually being home for one of the few days a month that I actually am. So
it is nice, actually, because the other week you were actually in the crowd because you're like, hey, it's Wednesday. I got really nothing going on. You mind if I stop by? I'm like, yeah, the door's always unlocked. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of how it works here. So sometimes, Ryan, we will have some studio audience. You see other chairs. Tonight we don't really have everyone here, but we've got Nate actually behind producing tonight, so you'll hear him chiming in. We do have a microphone for him, so you guys will hear a little bit from him when he needs to control the conversation. He can also shut down your microphone, just so you know.
Yeah, that's probably a good thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Mine's already shut off.
That might drop a couple times this evening for me.
That's right. What'd you say? Yeah, exactly.
But then I just pop over here like that.
So I want to thank our sponsors. So we have Tinder Box at Easton. They are typically the ones that are supplying it as far as the weekly cigar. This week we have the Rocky Patel 55, or is it called the RP 55?
RP 55 is how we roll with it.
RP 55. This is actually sponsored tonight through Rocky Patel, which is you guys have been around since the late 90s?
You are correct. Actually, Rocky Patel Premium Cigars itself, early 2000s.
Indian before.
Yes,
All
correct.
All right.
Correct.
So we'll go over a little bit of that as well. So we're going to be doing that kind of by way of Rocky Patel through Tinder Box. That's how the whole connection works. But thank you, Rocky Patel, and thank you, Rob, for providing those cigars tonight. I do like this cigar quite a bit. We're also going to be drinking from Rocky Patel, if you will. Is that through you or through the company or both?
It's through the generous givings of Mr. Rocky Patel.
Fantastic.
Paid for by Rob Wilson.
Expensed by Rocky Patel, hopefully shortly. The Basil Hayden's Caribbean Reserve Rye. This is the fourth version of a rye for them, so we'll go over that as well. Thank you to Altadis USA, who is our sponsor as well. Normally they'll do the weekly cigar. As far as the second cigar, I think we might be smoking. I do have some Monte Cristo Espadas floating around somewhere in the garage, the Oscuro, up on one of the
searched them out over there.
Yeah, so we do have that available, so we will smoke that probably later at one point tonight, but if we have more Rocky Patel cigars, we obviously would love to smoke those as well. So thank you, Altadis USA, and then also there's always typically at least one or two BS cigars floating around too. So thank you, BS Cigar Company. We are going to, like I said, be smoking the RP 55. We're going to be drinking the Basil Hayden's Caribbean Reserve Rye. I want to got a high viewership right now. I do want to say next week, and for the at least foreseeable future, we're going to be trying to do mostly Thursday nights for the Bourbon and BS podcast. Get Jake Sanders back on. We definitely miss him. So we're going to try to get him back on. We have a couple guests in the future, in the upcoming weeks, that we might still have to do a Wednesday, so stay tuned. We will be letting you guys know exactly when that's happening. But next week, we're going to be on Thursday night, so tune in live Thursday night. That is a hell of a lighter.
That's a hell of a position to hold a lighter.
It looked natural.
I don't. I'm just not even going to go anywhere with that.
All right.
Thanks for the day.
Exactly. All right, so let's talk about Basil Hayden's Caribbean Reserve Rye. You want to say
You
something?
really want me to back off when I laugh, man? That's going to be a difficult task for me. Have you ever been around me longer than 10 minutes?
If you guys need to turn down your speakers when he's talking, please do. So, Basil Hayden's Caribbean Reserve Rye is, again, it's the fourth version of their ryes. Nate, what was the last one? That dark rye?
I think the last one was the dark rye.
Dark rye,
which
rum.
is the one that
A port, right? Port finish?
Yep. It's got it's actually blended with port.
Okay, blended with port.
Yep.
This is something, and this is through Jim Beam, and right?
Really?
Yeah, Jim Beam. And if I'm wrong, everyone's like, yeah, tune out. I like bourbon. These guys don't know what they're talking about. But I'm pretty sure it's through Jim Beam. And that's one of the things that everyone doesn't really know, but I believe it is through that. And Nate is going to fact check that for me right now. But
it could be from RYO Distribution.
It's probably RYO. What's that again? You want to talk more about them?
And Kylie does say yes, it is Jim Beam that it's through.
Thank you, Kylie.
Kylie confirms.
Yes,
I
thank
believe
you.
what Kylie says.
Kylie is here most weeks through the
Shout out
beauty
to
of
Stacey.
Facebook Live. But we don't get her on the podcast because she is not allowed, which is unfortunate. So. Yeah, it's awkward. I know.
It is.
It's very awkward.
It is.
Thank you, Rob, for coming on, though, obviously.
Thanks
and
for
Ryan.
having me,
yeah,
Steve.
Absolutely. It's nice having you here in the garage.
It is a pleasure being here.
So this rye is going to be an 8-year-old Kentucky rye combined with a 4-year Canadian rye, and then also with they say, black strap rum, which I assume is a brand or distillery of rum. The Canadian rye is through the Alberta distillery, and then I assume, obviously, the Kentucky rye is through Jim Beam.
I would make that assumption
it
as well.
is quite interesting. I want to say that Basil Hayden's is doing something through their line here with the ryes that not many other distilleries are doing, which is making kind of out-of-the-box blends.
You are correct.
It's not just a mash bill. It's not just, I'm going to put more rye in it, call it a rye. We're not going to do this. It's not. It's outside-the-box thinking.
And I think that actually started a few years ago when Angel's Envy was one of the first companies that actually started doing port or rye
That's right.
rum barrel finishes, which at the time was very controversial because people were like, no, that's not a true bourbon.
Right, exactly.
You're
Don't
finishing
mess
it in
with
the barrel.
the purists.
But all of a sudden, all the flavors that are being imparted in the whiskey when they're finishing it in different barrels, it's amazing, and it's blown up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's even carried over into the cigar industry because now you have cigar companies advertising that they're aging cigars in whiskey barrels or rum barrels and stuff
Absolutely.
like that.
Well, it's part of the whole artisanship culture, so it's like one of those things. I mean, you don't knock it. It's just expanding on what, something that's already been, foundationed.
Yeah, you say don't knock it, but I mean, obviously there are people that knock this shit. And they do the same thing with cigars. I mean, you look at infused cigars, for example. I mean, I wouldn't go as far as saying that infused cigars are going to be necessarily like this per se. Like, that's more... But it's essentially the same thing, right? I mean, like, you're taking something that is going to be like a traditional product.
Right.
So cigars is 100% tobacco. You've got distinct lines as far as what you can do with the mash bill if you're making a bourbon, if you're making a whiskey in America. You've got, differences in Irish and Scottish or Scotch whiskeys. When it comes to cigars, you have a handful of infused cigars that are actually doing well.
Correct.
And it's not for everyone. Just like I would say this one or even the last one that was using port.
The dark rye.
The dark rye, that's not for everyone.
Right.
That's a hit or miss thing. But
Right.
It's funny because you talk to the same people and they're like, what'd you think of this whiskey, this bourbon, straight bourbon, bottled and bond? They're like, I didn't really like it. It's like, what's the difference?
Right.
You just didn't like it.
That's it.
That's how I'd look at it.
Yeah.
Opens
I'm
up
with
creativity, though. I mean,
the creativity is. I think it's
got to
fantastic.
open it up.
Again, I mean, artisanship product.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the point of all of it. The art of it. When it comes to wines, bourbons, liquors, cigars, coffees, beers, anything in that. product line. I mean, that's the fun, is the adventure of bringing it to a new place.
I mean, they're doing it with the beer now too, right? So they're bringing the beer into the bourbon back
for
to the beer.
sure, for sure.
I think Asylum did with the Dragon's Milk.
Yeah, they did.
Cigar, something like that.
Yeah,
New
and
Holland.
Nook is
New
actually working with New Holland right now. They just did a contract, from my understanding, that he's going to have the Aged on 8th is going to be the name, because there was a company, I'm not going to get into it, but they kind of didn't like the whole dragon part of it.
Got it.
If you heard the honk, welcome, Liz. Thank you for honking. The car's secure. That's good. Thank you. We have our own parking lot here at the studio, so it's nice. And she's watching right now, if you guys see that. That's nice. We do have a comment, which I like. Michelle Stewart says, Rob Wilson is a stud with 2 Ds. I don't know what the second D is for, but I feel like there's an inside joke. And then Jason
Stud with 2 Ds, Rob with 2 Bs. Just that all makes sense. Way to be, Michelle. I like the way you think.
It's fucking terrible. Jason Williams, I did more of a relevant comment, an actual factual good opinion. No offense, Michelle. Rob is a stud. I agree. But he says gimmicks sell. Gimmicks sell, then they go away, which does happen. Which with Basil Hayden's, I don't know if they're still doing. I mean, and Nate, maybe you know this, but if they're still doing the other rye, the dark rye.
The dark rye, yeah, it's still.
I know it's still available, but is that a regular production?
It is now,
because it says on here limited release. So maybe that's something, again, that's very kind of a parallel thing with some of the tobacco industry with cigars. That if a blend hits well enough and you have enough demand for it, and you have obviously enough tobacco where you're not messing with the blend, then it becomes from an annual limited release to a regular production. I would imagine that's what we're doing here. But, I mean, that's part of the gimmick thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, things get introduced as a limited, it's almost, could say, experimental as opposed to limited. Because if that experiment hits and it makes money, let's be honest, if there's dollar signs behind it, we're going to keep putting this stuff out.
Well, I mean, it's funny. Excuse me. That is different. I'm
right.
That's got
what is different? I was
I'm trying to figure it out.
The brown sugar in that,
I assume that's the rum,
is heavy.
Right.
There's a lot of brown sugar in that drink.
Yeah.
There's not many whiskeys that I get brown sugar in the nose.
No.
But this one, I definitely pick it up in the nose, and then
It's very sweet.
on the back end, just like with the dark rye. You get the whiskey up front, and with the dark rye, I get the port, that plum or raisin on the back end. With this, I definitely get the
shout out to Jake.
I definitely get the brown sugar and vanilla real heavy on the back end because of the rum.
Nate just nailed the review, I feel like.
Of course. All right, we're out. It's been fun, people.
Yeah, Ryan, what do you think?
Don't do that to me.
No, I agree. The brown sugar's there. I think it's back in the palate, but it's sweet. Like, you want to keep drinking it, though.
Yeah.
You're not mad at it.
It's not putting me off.
It's almost like a little tart. I think that's what's getting me right now in the back of the throat.
There is certainly a little bit of tartness. Yeah, I agree.
Very smooth, though. Finish is good.
It is, yeah. But, I mean, yeah, it's like a tartness, like right there in the back of the throat, almost like a fruit juice.
But not to
Like
be
a
the cigar guy.
Like a grapefruit.
But this cigar
Grapefruit.
right here, me, when I start off with it, I get a little bit of a citrusy tartness in the
on the cigar itself.
On the cigar itself, in the first portion. So, with the two of those together, that pairing might be doing a little bit of that as well.
Wow. That I don't get that. I don't get that from the 55.
No,
I don't. And now it's blown completely because of this rye. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's certainly an overpowering flavor.
Yeah.
I would say. But and before we go on the cigar, I would say that I like it. It's almost like you're drinking a cocktail. This is one that I would say, and you guys tell me what you think. I'd throw an ice cube in this, and it feels like I'm drinking some sort of a
It feels
cocktail.
like it's mixed already.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
which essentially it is, right?
Yeah.
It is.
Right.
I mean, yeah, it's already got 3 different liquors in there. It's not like it's mixed with anything necessarily like a mixed drink or anything like a cocktail. You're not adding anything like that, but it definitely tastes like it.
Yeah.
It tastes like something that just came out of a shaker at a nice bar.
Yeah.
And whether, like, if it was even just cold, I feel like it would taste more like a cocktail than it does, a rye whiskey.
Well, I think the adding that Caribbean rum in there, that would take the place of something like a simple syrup that you might put in a mixed drink.
Yep.
Well played. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what else really to say about it. I mean, I think it's good. The color is really, really, really dark. It's almost like I think more of a rum look.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the thing. It says the years, but when I looked it up, and maybe it's out there, and if anyone out there is listening that is more familiar with the product, let us know. But I don't know what the percentages are. Like almost like an ingredients list, like a mash bill. I don't believe it says on here. All it does is just says kind of a. What are you laughing at?
Kylie.
He's laughing at Kylie.
I'm laughing at Michelle.
Oh, the
How to
D?
do double D?
You know how one double D's it?
How finish it?
Rob, what's this run on the shelf?
Thank you for bringing us back on point.
Yeah,
there. See, I
thanks.
said that. That's what
Right?
part of the job here.
Kind of good. He's good. Good. To be honest, I just picked it up and paid for it. I didn't look at the price.
I want to say I saw it for about 45 here in Ohio.
That would be a little
45.
bit step up then from the dark rye. Well, actually, no. I think
I
the
think
dark
it's
rye is the
the
same
same
price. That's right.
I saw it
$44.99.
was a couple dollars more. I picked it up down in Kentucky as I was there this week.
Yeah. You think it was more down there?
Yeah, I think it was a couple dollars more. I want to say it was probably around that 52 mark.
Before tax.
Yes.
See, and that's interesting. We come up to that obviously, where in Ohio we're state run. So I mean the difference is, and I don't know if you knew that, Ryan, but it's one of those things where everything's through the state liquor.
Right.
It's not going to be something that's privately priced and all that stuff. Like I don't know if Kentucky is or not. I know Indiana can change price from shop to shop. I think Kentucky does too. But here in
Kentucky does. You're correct.
In Ohio, it's basically the state says, all right, no, it's $45.99, and you go to one liquor store, it's $45.99. The next one, the whole state is the same. It is state run, which is
so
good and
initially
bad.
We have a state minimum that they suggest we sell it for,
Right.
but they can do it for whatever they like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which Michelle says it's on average 50ish. So obviously we got a good deal in Ohio. So I think it's worth trying, but some people are throwing out the comments where sounds like it must be a lot different than the other rye. I would say absolutely. Someone said that Rob cannot handle these comments.
I gotta turn this shit
You
off.
might have
you guys
to.
Are great tonight.
Kylie says it's a whiskey for people who don't drink whiskey, ? Yeah, I think people that like whiskey can drink it. I think people that like rum can drink it. I wouldn't say that if you're like just a straight bourbon person that this is going to be on top of your list. But again, everyone talks shit about throwing an ice cube or throwing a little water and stuff. Not as much water, but with this one, I would say I'm going to throw in an ice cube.
Yeah,
and enjoy it as almost like a cocktail.
To go get us some ice cubes.
Well, I'm actually hosting a podcast right now.
Oh,
yeah, so
Okay, so
I'm a
you're
little
busy?
busy for the next
all right, shit.
hour or so.
So I don't personally drink too much,
Concierge.
but I'm not mad at this even without the ice.
Yeah.
So this is something that, like, for me, some bourbons are too strong. This is just smooth. It's just easy.
Yeah.
I think this would be the kind of whiskey that Miguel, who's not much of a whiskey drinker, he's
I
a
can see
rum
that.
drinker.
Yeah.
This could be something that would bridge that gap from a rum to a whiskey that
Right.
you might be able to enjoy.
And maybe that's what they're trying to do. They might be trying to do that. Obviously, think outside the box, or as I think Kylie said it, think outside the barrel, that's cute. But I would say they might be trying to do something different that no one else is doing, and then also bring in some rum people. They'll see this and they're like, oh, this Caribbean. Like they might even think at first it's a rum until they look at it and it's on the bourbon shelf. But it says right at the top, rum finish, Caribbean Reserve Rye, and it talks about rum. Rum is capitalized on there. Caribbean's capitalized. There's some pretty obvious plays there on there.
Right.
Like you're capitalizing the words that you're trying to get someone to look at. What are you smiling at?
Well, someone just made the comment that
No.
Rob Wilson only drinks pumpkin spice.
Oh my God.
Are you a
That's
pumpkin
the
spice
brown
girl?
sugar. That's the
Sadie's
brown
on
sugar.
here. Sadie is on
It's
here.
Heather.
I
Heather.
didn't
That's
see,
Heather.
right?
That's Heather.
Sadie, yes.
That's Sadie? All right.
That's Sadie.
All right, welcome,
Oh,
Sadie.
yeah.
So do you only
Yeah.
do you wear your Uggs only during the fall also? Or
Correct.
big Han Solo fan?
Big Han Solo fan.
Yeah. Got the vest, right?
Yep.
The black leggings and the Uggs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's a good look. Oh, okay. All right. Anyways, this is good. I would have sponsored wigs for this episode. For those of you listening on iTunes or Spotify, yeah.
Ryan, take the hat
Ryan,
off
do
real
you
quick.
have hair?
It's like you're my mirror.
Yeah, no, Ryan's good. He's the only guy with a head of hair has a
There
hat
we go.
on. So
There we go.
fantastic. All right, enough. Jesus, this will be an interesting one. The RP55 by Rocky Patel. This one was, and I'll let you obviously handle this, but this one was introduced at the IPCPR 3 years ago, to my knowledge.
Correct. Yeah, to commemorate Rocky's 55th birthday.
Yeah, so I'll give a couple quick facts that I'll know about this. Is that, like I said, 3 years ago, I really like this. It comes in 4, maybe 5 sizes, but they will all be, even like the Corona, you have the Robusto, you have the Toro, you have the Churchill, and then you have every one of them being a 55 ring gauge Figurado.
Correct.
And
Absolutely.
the only other thing I really remember about this is that it's good. It was one of my favorites at the show that year. I smoked the Corona, which is what, 4.5?
Yeah, 4.5.
And that shit smoked forever because it's a 55 ring gauge. Like it's kind of in that ballpark of nub. If you guys know what nub cigars are, all about 4 inches, about 60 ring gauge, give or take.
Correct.
And when I remember smoking it, I'm like, all right, this is cool. We'll just talk for 20 minutes with Nick Mitchell at the time, and this will be burn up and like almost like a big cigarette. I was smoking it for like an hour.
Yes, you were.
Maybe more. And we weren't even talking that much. It was just kind of just hanging out, listening to the music in your booth, and drinking beer. So, But go on. I know there's Costa Rican in there.
Yeah, Nicaraguan and Costa Rican blend. Again, to commemorate Rocky's 55th birthday. I honestly think it's one of the most complex cigars we do. The burn on it is nice, even smooth. I start out my palate, when I light it up, I get a nice kind of a citrusy, kind of a sweetness in the beginning, moves into a bit of a, I don't know, like an iron, like a metal kind of flavor. About halfway through, picks up a little spice. That spice tempers off, and throughout it, I get a little bit of a buttery toast.
Buttery toast.
If you're really searching.
No, I do. Seriously, honestly, I got to give a shout out to one of my guys, Josh. Josh has got an amazing palate, and he and I will sit down every once in a while and smoke a cigar. And I've got a pretty okay palate where I can taste certain things, and but I can't always put that descriptor to it. Well, my buddy Josh has that ability. And we'll sit there and we'll geek out on it, because obviously as a cigar rep, I'm smoking cigars every day, all day, and to really
you're good at your job.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah.
But one of the things that happens is obviously
what was that?
I said you haven't seen any samples in your shop lately. Have you?
I have actually. I have.
10 minutes away from my house.
We're one of the house accounts, Rob's house accounts.
So. Again, smoking cigars so much, I don't have the chance to, geek out on them all the time. And when I do get a chance to sit down with and pay attention to it, I like kind of experimenting and seeing if I can, pull out those certain flavors. And I really get a lot of that with this. A nice change up, and I'm a big fan.
Ryan, what do you think?
I'm getting the buttery toast.
Buttery toast?
Yeah, I feel like breakfast is ready for it.
Nate says you need to get closer to the microphone when you're not smoking. So we can hear you more.
We good?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's different. This is our newer setup, so it's a little different here. But you like the cigar, right?
It's enjoyable.
It's enjoyable, but you don't like. You're not saying you like it.
It's a good cigar.
Okay,
it's a good cigar.
You notice how he still hasn't said he likes it,
right?
He's very good at his job too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he distributes obviously a lot of different lines.
A lot of different lines.
Yeah. It's like a politician a little bit. No, it's good.
Maybe
it's good cigar.
Maybe
it's good cigar.
Good cigar.
Maybe we should get him on a RP55 challenge and see what he thinks about it there.
Explain that. Explain what you're talking about there. Why don't you?
No.
Okay,
no, I won't.
Cool.
Are we going to start the Rocky Patel challenge?
No.
Here's the question. Do more people smoke it? Well, how do you play this? Are more people against smoking acid, or are more people against smoking Rocky Patel?
That is an interesting,
controversial
question.
I actually don't know how to field that, honestly.
You get people on social media that says, like, oh, I don't smoke Gurkhas, or I don't smoke a Rocky, I don't smoke acid. You see that all the time on social media.
Of course, because it's social media.
So obviously the acid challenge was meant to get people to smoke an acid who don't normally smoke.
Great idea.
Yeah, so should we do that for Rocky?
Wow.
I like that idea.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Anything to promote
Absolutely.
the brand.
I
yeah.
mean, anything to promote the brand.
It's interesting you bring that up because, like, with acid, that is in my opinion, it's a flavor thing. With
It's a huge stigma, though. Out there,
Right.
right?
Of
there
course.
is a huge stigma.
Well, you know what? But the thing is obviously our friends over at Drew Estate are kind enough to make the Javas, and we distribute the Javas through Rocky Patel Cigars. And I remember when I first started with Rocky, my years getting into cigars and the flavors, the infused, they were closet cigars. But I got to say, it was right around. I've been working for Rocky for 5 years now, 5 glorious years, and it was right around that year 2 mark that I started seeing more people being open about it. Guys. I mean, because guys being guys,
right?
Being more outward, like I like that Java Mint, or I like that Cuba, or
It's more mainstream now. I think.
Yeah, I don't think there is as much of a stigma, but we are in the Midwest.
All right, so
I mean, I'm not an acid smoker.
you are or not?
I'm not.
You are not.
So I did the acid challenge, obviously, because I was called out by Mike Laneza, my Drew Estate rep.
Yeah, Mike. Shout out, Mike.
And so I did that, and I actually enjoyed the cigar I smoked during the challenge that I had been sitting on for a while.
Which was what?
It was a blend from Cigar Safari that they had given us.
Okay.
Following that up, though, I went right down to this would come back from the trade show. I went back to my bag and got that new Acid 20 they come out with. And wasn't mad at that either. I actually really enjoyed the new Acid 20 that's coming out. And so going back to Rocky Patel, I think for years being in this industry, I've tried many Rockies, and I've enjoyed Rocky Patel against what I've heard on some people say, I don't want to smoke a Java, it's flavored.
Yeah.
I actually want to revisit a Java now. I haven't had a Java probably in 5 years, and I think it's worth revisiting.
Yeah.
This is a good cigar. It's a great cigar. I would smoke it. This is that cigar you could smoke for like an after lunch. I wouldn't say an after dinner cigar, but it's definitely an after lunch, midday.
Yeah, you are
You
correct.
could smoke this all the time.
This is honestly just a segue.
Yeah.
It's perfect because during my drives, I usually start out my day with my coffee and my Hamlet 25-year cigar.
That's the cigar I'm hooked on.
Right. Hamlet 25.
The Hamlet 25. If
yes.
I go to Rocky Patel's portfolio,
That's a beautiful blend.
the Hamlet 25 is great.
Hamlet Paredes.
What do you like about that one?
Nailed that.
You know what? It's smooth. It's easy to smoke. I can smoke that after breakfast, and I can smoke it after dinner too. It's so good no matter when you
You are
smoke
correct.
it.
You are
Not
correct.
one leaf of Lajero in that.
In the 25th, you are correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just good to smoke though.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I mean,
Quality construction.
It's surprising.
I'm actually very impressed with your knowledge on that because.
Do you know how I know that?
How do you know that?
So, what was it? 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that Hamlet was in Columbus,
you
Ohio.
you are correct. Yeah.
So, and Hamlet is it? I can never say his last name.
Paredes.
So Hamlet is a 20-some year, obviously 25th anniversary, 20-some year vet of the tobacco industry. Most of those years, vast majority of those years, are in Cuba.
Correct.
And so he was a blender. He was a roller. He was actually, when I was down in Cuba last year, actually I just got back today or yesterday or something like that last year at this time. And Hamlet is really, really well known. In the States, no one knows him. Seriously, no one knows him. I mean, I get it why Rocky brought him on and like the whole idea there, but no one knows Hamlet unless you are a cigar nerd that includes Cuban tobacco and you know the history there. Because other than that, they're gonna be like, they didn't even know it was a Rocky Patel.
No.
Which, to your point, Ryan, is that might be a good thing if you're not normally a Rocky smoker.
Correct.
But
Correct.
I mean, with that, I thought it was bold branding. But when he was at the 10 event this 2 years ago, 3 years, two years ago,
yeah.
Again, not many people knew. But one of the guys I went down to Cuba with knew him, knew of him. He hadn't met him yet, but he was just geeking out about Hamlet being there. And so when he went up and talked to him, he smoked that 25th. I think Hamlet gave it to him because I don't think we were featuring that. We were featuring the Tabaqueros.
The Tabacaro, yeah.
And so he gave him that, and Mark lit it up, and he's like, wow, this is what I expected from you the first time. And that's where he told him that there was not one leaf of Lajero in there, which is almost unheard of anymore, I feel like, in the Nicaraguan, Dominican, Honduran made products.
Well, that's kind of one of the beauties of working with Hamlet,
which is much more common in Cuban cigars. Excuse me.
Correct. When Rocky, met Hamlet and that immediate kinship, had formed, bringing him to the States, and having Hamlet, who had only smoked Cuban cigars his whole life, and so Rocky presented that opportunity for him to smoke other, tobaccos from all over, and got to really kind of re-educate his palate. And then to see what he's been doing year after year since then is kind of remarkable, and it is. It's from a different point of view.
Well, I think the stuff,
which is beautiful.
I think the stuff that Rocky has come out with over the last 5 years has been night and day from what they come out with 10 years ago.
When did they open that Nicaraguan factory?
The Nicaraguan factory has been open, I think, 11 years that it's been open, but we've been yielding product out of there, if I remember correctly, 6 years.
So that lines up. That's what I was getting at. I get it that you're aging the tobacco down there and all that stuff, but
you guys know me. Those of you who do know me,
I'm
open,
again.
I'm honest, and when I do my events, and I'm talking to people, and they've smoked a lot of our older product, and have grown accustomed to the Rocky Patel style of product and the vintage and the edge lines, and which obviously great lines, but are looking for a little bit something more. They don't realize the stuff we've been doing the past years with the sun-grown Maduros, the RP55s, last year's Tavacusa. We've been knocking out of the park with some of those blends, and
the ALR.
Oh, that ALR is
this year's ALR that's coming out is amazing. If you get to smoke one of those, the new ALR is
it's presented properly this year.
Beautiful
absolutely.
presentation.
I mean, you and I talked about that when you handed me, and I don't think I gave that one to Brian to smoke because it was one of those I think you only had one of, and it's like if anyone's going to smoke it, it's the person that has the checkbook, right? So that makes more sense, right?
Right.
I mean, as much as I want to smoke it, it's kind of like, yeah, Brian's really good. He's like, okay, cool. I'll find out when Rob brings another one. I'm like, all right. Like he takes my word on a lot of things, but when it comes to certain, cigars and everything like that, it doesn't always work that way. But you guys definitely dressed it up appropriately for what you were trying to accomplish.
Yeah, exactly. For
the
what
first
the cigar
time around,
is, the presentation,
that matters.
Fits. Yeah,
that absolutely matters.
Completely.
I mean, you look at this bottle on here. I mean, that stands out on a shelf. Mm-hmm. No one else puts this kind of loose paper around it,
look
dressing
at the
it
metal
up.
kind of belt that it kind
Got
of
the
has,
metal
the
belt.
belt that it has going to it.
Right.
And that matters.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
I mean, that's one of the things. I mean, when we do that with the cigars and the branding of the boxes and everything like that. Yeah, I mean, we're trying to to incorporate a presentation experience. Something that touches with a certain consumer. I always talk about in certain lounges when things sometimes get a little crowded in the humidor. I talk about that framing.
Always does. There's only so much real estate.
Exactly. But I talk about how the framing of the product is really important to that buying experience, because the receptors that we have. I mean, if you see a wall of product that's framed nicely, it's easy to look at, and whether it be Drew Estate or Ashton or Padron or Rocky Patel, sometimes it just grabs you in a personal kind of way that makes you want to buy it just based on that presentation. So
there has to be a balance to it, though, right?
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
So back to Rocky. So for so many years, that stigma was we have really beautiful boxes, and the cigars sometimes didn't live up to it. Or that was the same thing with Gurkha, right?
Gurkha was very much
gorgeous boxes, over the top boxes, but the cigar didn't live up to the box.
CAO was doing the same thing at one point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So now I think what you're seeing with Rocky is they've kind of scaled the box back a little bit, but they kept it nice, classy, clean.
Right.
But they've got the cigar up to par with the box that they put it in.
Oh, absolutely.
And now when you pick up that cigar out of the box, you want to smoke it again.
Yeah.
You want to go back to it.
Oh, yeah.
I like Rocky I put into, and Rob may or may not like this comment, but I think Rocky is at that kind of critical point and has been for a while with I'll put him in the group of just in this type of mentality is like with Alec Bradley, is with some of the big boys lines, Altadis, one of our sponsors, Monte Cristo, Romeo Julieta, all this stuff. You've had all these different cigars kind of not polluting but almost diluting the image of the brand.
Yeah.
Because at some
I
point,
get it.
you start out, you got some of the boutique guys, and it's like everything that comes out, you're like, oh, I'd expect that from them.
Right.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And then it's like all of a sudden they go off script, and they were all about medium full body, and they put out a Connecticut or a Claro or whatever it is that's a mild to medium, and they smoke it, and you're like, oh, I don't like this. I like this other stuff. Or if they're always, like with Rocky, producing out of Honduras, using a lot of Honduran tobacco and kind of having this staple as far as what you're producing, and they're all kind of branching off it. I don't really care for it. You know what I mean? I don't know this guy. There's no real family history. I can't get behind some guy that used to be an attorney, that now he's trying to get into the cigar world.
Right.
It's just another rich asshole that wants to be a cigar maker.
Right.
He has obviously proven that is not the case.
Correct. Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I think he
Yeah.
proves that hard work pays off too, man. This guy puts
Absolutely.
out.
That's
Well,
my
yeah,
point.
I always heard the
Rocky's
story.
yeah, go ahead. Please.
I mean, I heard the story that Rocky traveled 360 days knocking on doors and was home 5 days in 1 year. So
You are
this guy
correct.
put
He
in
did
some
it.
hard
yeah.
work.
Yeah.
He did it.
He's-
Selling out of a pickup truck in Texas. I mean,
Right.
this guy was hard working. to
Yep.
get-
Where he used to be, probably suited up every day and
Yeah.
Right.
working his ass off, obviously, but in a different, that kind
Exactly.
of white collar.
And it was. It was because of the passion for the product that drove it. You know what I mean?
So there's respect
Look,
there.
let's be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy was doing all right.
Yeah.
He didn't necessarily need to change directions. But doing that, he put everything in, and
Yeah.
that's really what sold the product. That's really what started things out for him. One, that vintage 1990 when he dropped that. I mean, that was such a great blend. And then Rocky was at everybody's doorstep.
Yeah.
Everybody's.
Yep.
All across the U.S. There was nobody left untapped with
And
Rocky
even-
Patel.
even
and
now-
people recognize that.
Yeah.
Even now, as you guys expand and you guys are growing, the rest of the family that he's brought on board, top notch. I mean, you want to hang out with Nimmy and Nish no matter when you see them.
Absolutely.
Nish was at our 10 event, I think 5 years in a row, right?
Yeah.
And so not the first year, not this last one, because it was kind of a neutered event, and obviously we're bringing that back this next year. But Nish was at that 5 years in a row, and as much as I'd love to have Rocky there, I don't know if he would be able to or whatever. We may not be big enough with 300 people, but with Nish, he's like, I'm coming back every year.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
The
first
so
time-
personable.
First time I met him, it was like we're hanging out, and it wasn't like the night where everyone just goes off. Like they did a nice dinner, and then they came back to the pub where we were, holding in this big event. And Nick, who's still with Nick Mitchell, who was the rep at the time before Rob, who's moved up in the company. Congratulations, Nick! But it is something where he leans over to me. He's like, "Dude, I got to go home," and he lives in Michigan. And I said, "All right, man." He's like, "No, I have to go. I want to go home. Can you make sure Nish gets to the hotel?" And I'm like, "Okay." Like, so I was like maybe 3 years into this industry, 2-3 years into the industry, and I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I guess. Like, you're gonna trust me with that?" And I'm like, "All right." So Fidel's closing up at midnight, and there's probably about a dozen of us, and I go over to Nish. I'm like, "Hey, man, I can call you an Uber right now. They got cab vouchers. Like he said, you're at the airport." He's like, "Well, what are you guys doing?" And I said, "We're going down to World of Beer. It's like literally down the block. We're gonna walk there." He's like, "Yeah." And he just goes and grabs a suitcase, pulls up the handle, and just starts like rolling that down the sidewalk, going down to World of Beer. And then he picked
That's
up
my
the
guy.
entire round for a dozen people.
Yeah.
Nice.
You're right.
Nice.
This is the company.
best.
You meet them, and you're like, no, these guys are in it for the real reasons.
Yep.
Correct.
And now that they've actually, to your point, they've built up the brand or the quality, maybe, Ryan. But I think they've just expanded the portfolio that you can say it, but I think it's unfounded if you say I don't like Rocky Patel cigars.
Right.
Because as a retailer, when I'm saying, well, which ones have you had? You're like, I don't remember. I had 2 of them over the years, and I tell you what, I didn't care for either of them. And you're like, that they've got 20 to 30 different blends from 2 different factories. You got a cigar right here with Costa Rican tobacco, which a lot of people have never even smoked Costa Rican tobacco.
Correct.
And everything's so different.
Right.
Yep.
And I don't think the quality of the construction has ever really been in question.
No,
in my opinion.
That's actually, as a rep, it's one of the best things that we can hear on a regular basis when doing events is, I've never had a bad burn with Rocky Patel. Look, obviously natural product, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always situations. But quality-wise, everybody has always stood by. And Rocky himself, I mean, he stands by. That's one of his hard hitters when he's dealing with the factories is like the stuff that's coming out of there better be to his standards, which are very, very high.
He had a good line in that Hand Rolled, that documentary that was out recently.
Right? Yeah, I'm yet to see it.
Go ahead,
please,
Nate.
Jake. Nate. Sorry.
Thanks for that, Rob.
Sorry.
I will not forget that.
Sorry.
No, I was actually going to bring up that Rocky was in Hand Rolled. So for anyone out there that has not watched that documentary, Hand Rolled, about the history of cigars, once Castro came into power in Cuba and everything like that, Rocky is featured in that. But one of the other things I was going to bring up is you were talking about a stigma behind the brand Rocky Patel. I think for a period of time there, part of that stigma was it seemed like Rocky was coming out with another cigar like every 2 months. And it's like, all right, what's he coming out with this time? What's the special of the month this time?
Right.
And so I think that's kind of where some of that stigma
I agree
came.
with you. Yeah,
of
I agree with you.
He's kind of keyed into. He's kind of keyed into the good. The good brands.
Right.
To the good
Look,
blends.
you guys know how it is when somebody starts out in this industry. Typically, other people are making their cigars, and you get
That's absolutely true.
You get to work with these manufacturers and work on the specific blends that you want to represent. But Rocky had this thing. I mean, and he still does. He wants to have variety. He wants to have something for everybody. The luxury lifestyle. He wants to bring premium tobacco cigars, keep them at a great price that everyone can afford, and have something that everybody's going to enjoy. But back in the day, when it was a every so many months kind of scenario, I mean, it was too many options. So it made the buying process a little bit more difficult.
How many cigars is he putting out now in a year? Like, how many cigars does Rocky Patel put out in a year now?
You're talking about total volume?
Total volume, because I was always under the impression in the 7 years I've been in the industry that Rocky's one of the bigger brands out there in terms of volume.
Yeah,
like how many's?
We're one of the top five.
The last number I heard was over 20 million a year.
Yeah, you are correct. Yeah, but we're certainly one of the top brands.
But the fact that he can put out over 20 million cigars a year, and they're all well constructed. Each cigar is good. There's a cigar out there for every palate. I think is very, very impressive when you're someone that's that big of an industry. And he's not a conglomerate. It's not like
no, it's him.
It's not like General
it's
Cigars.
company,
It's
right?
got a bunch of brands and CAO, Punch, Partagas, Cohiba. It's not like Altadis. It's got Macanudo or not Macanudo, Monte Cristo, Romeo and Julieta, Onyx, Butera, all that. No, everything's Rocky. It's all Rocky Patel, one label. That's it.
And he keeps it affordable.
He does.
That's what you were saying. Like his cigars, what's the most expensive? 14 at the top end. But you're looking at the edges all day, around $6-7, and you can, but you can smoke them over and over again. It's not killing your wallet.
Right.
And you're getting quality for the.
You know what you're going to get, but
Yeah.
I'll say the flavor has changed for Rocky Patel. At least it's broadened. That was my point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And Kylie said that, which I'm not going to. I just did call her out. Kylie says if you can't find one Rocky Patel cigar you like, you're lying. If you're a cigar smoker, that is a challenge. There's a challenge for you. Going back to
Thank
that,
you for
Ryan.
that comment.
There is a challenge for you. If you want to talk, bad about like a brand or something like that. We talk about Basil Hayden's here. We talked about Booker's at one point. Everyone fucking loves Booker's.
Yeah,
that's a Jim Beam product.
Right.
And people will talk shit about Jim Beam all day
time.
long, and it's
All
like,
day
all right,
long.
calm the fuck down. You know what I mean? They've done it to a point where they know their shit, but they're also, it's like, oh, Miller Lite's a garbage beer. Miller Lite is selling the shit out of their beer over any fucking craft brew that you
Exactly.
drink. They are millionaires. Like there are factory workers, manufacturer workers on the floor that are retiring in their 50s because Miller Lite is that trash.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, get the
Right.
fuck out of here with that. Like, get over yourself. If you don't like it, you don't like it. My point is, with Kylie saying that, it's like, there's your challenge. If you want to say Rocky doesn't make good cigars, smoke the whole current portfolio.
Right.
And if you don't like it, that's fine.
Absolutely.
But
You-
I don't like that attitude.
no. It's,
Well, that's kind of back to the challenge, right? There's the acid challenge. So how do you say you can't
that's
like
what-
one acid?
Exactly. That's why I do. Honestly, I think it's a great idea. But I've always been a fan of Jonathan and the way he's come to market on so many different aspects. I mean, what a brilliant man. And
There's quality tobacco through that sweetness. You know what I mean? There's
Well, that's the difference.
quality
You're using
tobacco
real,
and blends.
like good tobacco and then
Absolutely.
infusing.
I
yeah.
run into that all the time. Obviously, being a rep and having 2 different territories in my career doing this, and being to countless accounts and lounges.
Yeah.
People do, obviously, especially when I'm doing events. People want to come up to the table and tell me about cigars, and that's fine. I mean, a lot of people know a lot more than I do, but you look in those lounges, you look in those humidors, and all of those cigars in there, they're all coming from roughly the same regions, the same suppliers, and there's so much similar.
Well, the big thing is, I will
mean,
say this.
you can't really discount anybody.
I don't care how much like Rocky's growing or anyone else is growing. Rocky grows.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The majority of tobacco, number-wise, if I'm like, it is coming from the same major growers.
Absolutely.
Everyone
Absolutely.
is using any of the big guys, any of the small guys. The tobacco is mainly coming from 3 or 4 major growers
You are
in
correct.
those regions.
You are correct.
That's it. So you may not like a certain brand, and then it's funny because it's something because you have your own bias, or you didn't like it, or you had one that cracked, and that's all you gave it. You don't like someone that sold it to you. You had a bad day the day you sold, or you bought it. Whatever it might be. It's the opposite side of like that euphoria where it's like, yeah, I smoked a cigar down on a beach and it was like the best cigar I ever had, but I also got sick. And it's like you were also on vacation.
Right.
It was gorgeous. There were girls in bikinis around you or guys in Speedos around you. And then all of a sudden you got drunk off of, umbrella drinks and you got sick in the morning and you blame it on the cigar.
Absolutely. I was just
The opposite.
I was just down in the Dominican on a vacation this past
in his
April.
Speedo.
That's fine.
It's fine.
Right.
It's 2019.
Yeah, exactly. So
He's European, I think.
There was this gentleman who sat at the swim-up bar next to me, and he was so excited because
The story can go a lot of ways.
he had bought
Because of the Speedo.
he had bought some Cuban cigars from the beach front. There was there's always those the people on the
For those of
beach
you who are listening to
selling.
the audio, he should have done air quotes on that.
Yeah, exactly. Damn it, Steve. So he's excited because he talked this gentleman down on the beach. He got these 2 Cuban cigars, and I did use air quotes. And I think he said he got them for like $100 for these 2 Cuban cigars.
Get out of here.
As being in that position, I cringed, but at the same time, I complimented him on getting such a good deal on those Cuban cigars because I didn't want to ruin his experience.
And he loved it, probably.
And he loved it.
He lit it up, and he's like, dude, it's
loved
the best cigar I've ever had.
every single draw on that cigar. Like it was the best cigar he'd ever got because 1, he's in the Dominican. 2, he got a great deal. 3, it was a Cuban.
And 4, he's sitting next to you.
In
the
the
Speedo.
In a Speedo. There it is. I went down to the DR last year, and it was one of those things. It was the exact opposite. I brought a ton of cigars, and the friends I was with, we were a group of like 20-some people, obviously know I'm in the business. And so, like, I had cigars. They were asking me about, like, hey, how about these Cuban cigars? I said, well, there's in the resort, there's an actual shop, which you can get Dominican, Nicaraguan, Cuban, everything in the shop, right? And it's legit. So these guys are walking by, selling the boxes of cigars, and like it's like just knock off Macanudo brand. You know what I mean? Like not even like you're not even trying at this point.
Right.
You're just like, all right, you're drunk, you're a tourist,
Yeah.
You've never smoked a cigar except for at the
Absolutely.
beach. And so he came back with a box of 10 Monte Cristos, air quotes, and the labels were terrible, the box
Yeah.
was terrible, all this
Every
stuff.
time.
And I looked at him and I was like, what do you think? And he's like, dude, it's pretty good actually. And I said, what'd you pay? And he's like, I paid $35 for 10. I was like, you're fine.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah.
You know what you bought.
Right.
You know you didn't get a deal on the beach for Cuban cigars that should be like, $120, $150 for 10 Monte Cristos. You paid $35. You got shit cigars. You're drunk. You're enjoying them. And you're smoking Cuban cigars on the beach.
More power.
Again, more air quotes. You're
More
fine.
power. Right. Enjoy it.
You're fine.
Well, I had a
Enjoy
quick
it.
question for Rob or anyone else that may know this. I think it was 3 years ago, the Sun-Grown Maduro was number 2 cigar of the year.
You are correct.
2 years ago, right?
2016.
Okay,
Shit.
so yeah, 3 years ago, number 2 cigar of the year. Has Rocky ever had a number 1, or was that the highest rated cigar he's ever had?
Through aficionado, yeah, that was the highest
about
rating.
Aficionado.
Yeah.
Did that
Decade was a
change?
95.
Yeah.
Why was that not how was that not a number 1
The
on
decade was
some?
up
It's got to be some list.
And the decade is still, even before I was doing the gig, I mean, I was smoking decades, and now that I've been with Rocky for 5 years and able to smoke even more of them, that decade has always been consistent. It's always been flavorful.
The
And
15th anniversary's been on there a few times.
Yeah, the 15th's been on there
15th was up
numerous
there,
times.
I
highly
think it's been on there a
rated.
few
Yeah,
times. I don't know if it's
yeah.
how high it's been, but it's been on there multiple times, I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
The
Off my
Royale. The
memory.
Royale was the what was? Oh, wow. Royale was
Royale
number
was up.
5.
Yeah, I
Number
was gonna say
5 of
top
2014.
10.
I think
We're talking
it
about
was.
aficionado ratings, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it. I know we talked about it with Alec Rubin when he was on. Did getting
Alec Bradley.
Yep.
Yes.
Did getting that number 2 rating change you guys working the territories and how you guys did business at all?
Not really. I mean, the thing is obviously it's as a retailer, as a rep, it's great to get that rating because you have the people who will do their shopping, come that release of that list, they bring the magazine in and they do their shopping based off that list. So, absolutely. So, people wanted to have it on the shelf in preparation. So, sales-wise, yeah, it absolutely, brought it to another level.
We're referencing the Sun-Grown Maduro, correct? That's
Yeah.
Correct.
The
Correct.
Robusto
So-
was the one that got the number 2, I believe.
I think I'm still backordered on it.
No.
Is that right?
Yeah,
No,
it was for a while this year, backordered. for
Oh,
almost-
well, there was
it
a
slows
a
down.
broadleaf shortage
Okay.
actually, and so there was a lot of manufacturers that were
which
backordered.
I'm not knocking it. Which
No,
that means
no.
is when we sell out and you guys sell out, that means people are
People
still
are
buying
buying.
it 3 years later.
right.
So the residual effect
Well-
of that rating.
Thank you. Actually, that's actually where I was going to next with
Yeah.
it. That's one of the beautiful things is because you do get that hit because of the list. Every once in a while, things kind of slow down. You'll get that first 6, 7, 8 months where
Yeah, we
things
know
are
as retailers.
great, right? Yes, you
We
do.
know.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, we had the Royale,
It-
and we're like, this is a great cigar.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Couldn't
Well,
sell it, we're shit, and it's like, all
Brother.
right, it's all full circle. It's another Rocky Patel cigar.
Right.
Then all of a
Man.
sudden it gets like a number 7, and we're like, oh, do you guys sell that? We're like, yeah, we did 2 years ago.
Yeah, and you didn't buy it.
Yeah.
I run into it all the time. I honestly, to this day, the Royale is still one of my favorite cigars Rocky has ever done.
Which one?
The Royale.
Yeah.
It's a marriage of the vintage product. It's nice, solid medium. The toastiness, the creaminess of that. I think it's beautiful. If you're a bourbon guy, what a great pairing that is.
Yeah.
That said, yeah, I'll be honest. The sales are a lot different than they were back in 2014, and I bring that cigar around, and it's when as a rep I try to reintroduce it, because obviously there's so many blends available, whether it's our company or other companies. I mean, eventually things can get overlooked. It's just the way the market is.
Well, I think I'm cut you off, but one of my favorite Rockies. So right now the Hamlet's like my flavor of the month, right?
Yeah.
But for years I smoked the, don't quote me, 2003 Cameroon
Oh yeah, it's-
with the blue wrapper.
Yeah, it was really popular for
What a
quite some
smoke.
time.
And last year that was one of my big growth cigars. People were,
What a smoke!
the Cameroon wrapper is one of those things, though. It's almost a fad.
But you don't
I mean,
see it in
don't you
stores
see
now.
that
It's a
as
hit or
retailer?
miss. It's a
Right?
like,
Hit or
it's a
miss.
like
I
or
mean,
dislike.
the only
It's a very
Cameroon that
unique-
sells on a regular basis is that Hemingway.
I was gonna say Fuente,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Don Carlos, Hemingway.
You know,
right,
Flor Dominicana
right.
has
But-
a good Cameroon too.
Yeah?
actually.
correct.
does.
You are. Oh yeah,
Oh,
LFD's.
No,
I
Oliva
agree.
G. Oliva G.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Oliva G sells, and no one knows. It's just a medium body
But see,
cigar for $7.
Right. Does it say Cameroon on there?
No.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Look, we came out with some years ago. We came out with the Decade in a Cameroon wrapper.
That was a good cigar.
That was a damn good cigar.
Shouldn't have called it a Cameroon.
Correct.
I'm one of the few guys at Tinder Box that actually really enjoys Cameroon leaf.
This is a fact.
That is true. Because I know
This is a fact.
Well, because I know when I was a rep for a different company, you guys, Tinderbox carried the Cameroon from the company that I worked for, and after I left the company, it was gone because it's just not. It's not a wrapper for everyone. It doesn't have the flavor that everybody looks for. People either like it or they don't. There's not much of a middle ground.
There's an ignorance there too.
Yeah.
With that, with cigars, with whiskey, with a lot of different hobbies that you're interested in.
Correct.
That there are these hot topic words that are used, marketing.
Right.
In the cigar industry, Connecticut.
The panda's watching.
But it's like Cameroon. Not everyone knows what Cameroon is.
No.
They don't know what they think it means something. Or Sumatra, they think it means something.
Right.
I like other Sumatra.
Right.
You like Sumatra seed tobacco, I like another Sumatra cigar. So if it's anything like this Sumatra cigar, then I like Sumatra. Cameroon's one of those.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
There's to the level of, and it's not a bad thing, it's just ignorance, you know what I mean, as far as a level of understanding that, even like Corojo or Criollo, you see those words on there and you just think it's like a Spanish word. You don't necessarily know it's a seed.
Well, I think you had the same situation
time.
happen with Tiamo. Right, let's go back to your
Mexican.
sponsors, Altadis, right here.
Yeah.
So they had the Mexican wrapper, and everybody was like, "Oh, we're not going to smoke it." Tiamo fell off really hard.
Yes, it
for
did.
the Mexican,
Oh,
and then
very hard.
I think people started finding out that San Andreas was from Mexico.
Oh, really?
And next thing you know, look at San Andreas today. I mean, everybody wants to blend with San Andreas tobacco. So
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
flavor of the month
San
now.
Andreas is definitely like the top 2, maybe 3 Maduro shade
You are correct.
wrapper leaves.
Yes, absolutely.
You got San Andreas and broadleaf for the last 2 years. Anything coming out Maduro.
but
is
early
San Andreas.
2000s, I mean, Tiamo was dying just because everybody didn't want to smoke Mexican tobacco.
Absolutely.
They thought it was
Well,
a sub-quality tobacco, and it's not.
RALR this year, the second edition.
San Andreas.
San Andreas.
San Andreas.
San Andreas.
And it's a killer smoke. I mean, it's a great cigar. The new ALR is very good.
Yeah.
And you got like we feature like AJ Fernandez cigars. That dude is using San Andreas tobacco on all sorts of stuff.
All the time.
All sorts of stuff.
All the time.
And now it's on stuff that he doesn't even put his name on. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the Romeo San Andreas. Like, this is really good. You're like, AJ Fernandez makes it for him. You're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
a great cigar.
It's a great leaf.
I want to put the panel on the spot real quick.
All right.
Everyone, what is your favorite Rocky Patel, or your top 2 Rocky Patels?
Wow.
We'll start with Ryan.
Well, I'm going to go with the Cameron 2003, and then if I had to go today, I think the new Hamlet. I smoke a lot of them. I'm waiting on that ALR to come out just to see the longevity of it. I want to smoke more of them.
Yeah.
I
Right.
got to find my rep to get some samples, I guess.
That's you, Rob, I think.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, yeah.
That
You
is
don't work
me.
for RYO,
And while
do
you
you
think about that, I had Jim Reed actually comment on here. Jim Reed commented, so is it a bourbon podcast or a cigar podcast or both? Jim, if this is your first time tuning in, if you caught it earlier, we were talking about the Basil Hayden's Caribbean Reserve Rye. So typically the format is going to be the whiskey first, the cigar second, life topics coming up, which we'll be moving on to shortly. This time around, we kind of went into it knowing we got kind of 3 cigar-heavy guys as far as, where our passion is more skewed towards that, even though we do like whiskeys and bourbons, and that's part of the format. Jake's going to be on next week. It'll be more bourbon, I guess, equal next week, which is something that we're looking forward to. So we try to give at least a half hour or so to the whiskey, half hour or so to the cigars, and then about an hour to the life topic. This next week, we're going to have a friend of the community, so it's going to be kind of both. And he's not either a cigar or whiskey necessary expert, but is passionate in the cigars. The following week, we're going to have a local bartender that has won some awards. So I assume that one in 2 weeks. It'll be a Thursday in 2 weeks, and that's going to be more bourbon heavy. So Jim, if you tune in every week, or if you want to tune in the beginning, or the second half of the beginning, whatever it might be. It's kind of different every week, but we include all 3 aspects every week. It's just kind of where the conversation goes, because none of this is really scripted. There's a framework.
Correct.
And you'll find out it's not scripted here shortly, if you haven't already. But Rob, did you haven't answered the question?
Yeah, for me, I always say when I'm doing events, I mean, if any of you have been at an event with me and I'm there talking about all the cigars, and I really love the opportunity to point out specific blends and why this blend and that blend are standout. One of the things I often say is I believe the sun-grown Maduro is the best cigar we make. I mean, that is such an amazing cigar. But that said, the Hamlet 25-year is completely my favorite.
I love how that's so popular. It's like real, cigar nerds.
Yeah.
Right. I smoke that cigar every chance I get. It's amazing. So, but my number 2 is actually the 55, what we're smoking right now.
Solid cigar.
Very solid.
I love this in that Corona, as you were talking about earlier. That Corona is, my good 40-minute car ride. And
It's a long 40 minutes.
That's a long 40
minutes.
Yeah, I love that. I love what this offers. I love the complexity to it. And, yeah, so those are my 2.
And I'm going to say this. We got Michael. Good day, my brothers from Sydney, Australia. Thanks for tuning in. So we're global at the moment. Thank you very much. Jim commented back, both a bourbon and cigar guy, so this is cool. And then Jeff DeSandra said it's like a deep voice contest. So, yeah, it's not.
And then there's
How
Ryan.
is this exact cast? Someone asked, like, is this the same? Like, how often is this cast on? We try to get repeat guests. So if you guys are enjoying the conversation or enjoying the view, if you're watching on the video, just go ahead and let us know who you want to have repeat guests on, who you don't want to see. If it's me, I'm sorry. This is my garage. I'm going to be around at least if I'm not going to be on camera and whatever. But that's fine, too.
And you're one of the sponsors.
And I'm one of the sponsors. I did want to say one of your more recently re-released cigars. Rob, I'm talking about your brand here. You all right? I'm happy that you're laughing quietly. Otherwise,
we have
could
like
not have a
huge.
conversation.
We have a great audience watching right now, and so shout out to Jeff DeSandre and Sean Coughlin and the whole team at Ambassadors out in Troy, Michigan.
Is that where they're at?
Yeah,
They're watching because you're on, which I appreciate you bringing some of your crew on this.
What's funny though
they're
is
great guys.
Nook
Great
mentioned
group over
that who's actually working right now. So the entire staff
happens.
is watching.
what time is it? Maybe did they close at 8? No, they're still open. Perfect. Well, put it on your
Cheers, boys.
airplay it.
Absolutely.
on the
Put it
TV.
on the screen. Let everybody
Great
watch.
lounge, great staff, good place to go.
Absolutely, we appreciate that. I was going to say my favorite Rocky. I'm going to answer the question, even though it wasn't really asked. But your more recently re-released cigar.
I'm glad you say this.
The Rocky Patel Old World Reserve Corojo. Wow. And it's not necessarily something that I go to every day. It's not a daily smoker. But I will say one of the things I like about it, and we featured it on here, I believe, at one point.
We did, yeah.
I think the last time you were on.
Yep.
Is that it goes with everything.
Yeah.
You can smoke it in the morning. You can smoke it in the afternoon. You can smoke it at night. It's just a very flavorful cigar, medium-bodied. And so far, when I've smoked it, I'm pretty confident that will go with a cask strength whiskey. It'll go with a rum. It'll go with a Miller Lite. It'll go with this
Scotch.
one.
I like it with
it's
a
like
Scotch.
this universal blend where it's like right there, middle of the road strength, middle of the road kind of flavors. So there's nothing like overpowering. There's not a whole lot of pepper. There's not. I mean, it's just
right.
It's food flavors, just completely through and through. And there's multiple flavors. I wouldn't say it's the most complex cigar, but for what you're doing with that cigar,
I agree.
That is probably currently my go-to Rocky Patel. Have you had that, Ryan?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's solid smoke.
Yeah,
good. That re-release was very important to the company.
Absolutely.
I mean, the original release of the Old World Reserve, the Corojo was there's a Corojo and a Maduro. The Corojo was the hot blend. So with the reintroduction, I mean, you've got to capture that nostalgia crowd. You have to. I mean, if you don't capture that nostalgia crowd, you're dead in the water.
But you said that was discontinued in 2012.
Yeah, 2012.
So in the last 7 years, how many new cigar smokers are there? They don't know it's a re-release.
That's a good point.
Right. Yeah.
But the only problem is for him is he has to tell everybody to take the bottom wood off the cigar again. They didn't do that this year. Remember they used to have
Yes.
the paper on the
Yes.
bottom of those?
They got
Yeah.
cedar on
So-
it?
This- yeah.
Yeah, look, but it
And-
was so
and-
color close to the wrapper.
They would light
They
it.
would just light
They
it
would
all
light
the
it
time and ruin
all
their
the
cigar.
time.
I got to tell you, it
The
doesn't matter
originals.
if it matches the cigar or not. I have found cigars in the ashtray at the shop, like a Chateau, Fuente
Really?
Chateau,
Or like the
blatant-
Edge series.
just blatant like cedar on there, like 3/4 of the cigar, all the way up to the band. There's cedar on it, and we'll joke when we're like, "Hey, you want me to take that cedar off? Make sure you take that cedar off before you smoke." And they kind of laugh and like, "You know, the only reason I say that is," and they're like, "Oh, really?" Yeah, we'll find them like a quarter, like just like a 1/4 inch in the ashtray. No one came back inside.
I had a
and
custom. Remember
it tastes terrible. Yeah, because it's wood.
the Leaf by Oscar?
Yes,
They would
same thing.
cut the top and start lighting it as if that was the cigar without unraveling it.
I've never seen that.
You have
It's
seen
not.
that.
It's not shocking. But I personally have never seen anybody do that. But yeah, that makes complete
Cut and
sense.
light.
We had a repeat buyer at one point that smoked it like that.
Really?
Yes, I love these cigars, and they went to light it up like that, or he went to cut it like that. And we're like, wait, no, you want to take that outer leaf off? They're like, oh, really? Now they really liked it.
Wow.
Well, I remember there was a broker that has since retired, and he had a story where there was a customer who came in, never had the leaf before, and bought like 4 of them, and came back 2 days later. He's like, yeah, I really like this cigar. And he was getting half a dozen more. He's like, I really like this cigar, but it kept flaking off and burning holes in my dress shirts, and he's a limo driver, so he's always wearing white dress shirts. And he's like, yeah, it kept burning holes in my dress shirts. And the people at the store are like, I've never heard that happen before. And they're like, did you take the leaf off? He's like, what do you mean take the leaf off?
Yeah,
Like, he still liked it even with that leaf off.
that's yeah.
But then I've also seen people light it that have the nylon bands at the foot,
Oh yeah.
and that's an interesting aroma.
At least it took it out of the cello. I mean, you know, that's, we got to look for the winds here, everyone. We got to look out for the winds.
They did buy it smelling it through the cello, though, right?
That
So
typically
they
happens.
smell the cello.
Yes, this happens. Absolutely. Yeah, they try to smell it in a cigar shop through the cello. It's
All
fine.
the time.
It's fine. It's fine. It's
So
fine.
good.
We're
There's
not.
nothing
We're
wrong
not.
with- We're not making fun of anybody.
No.
I know I can't smell anything, but I may not have the
If you,
strongest sense
if you
of
can
smell.
smell it through the cello, bravo.
That's fine. Whatever. That's fine.
I hate
We've
it.
seen it all.
We've
Nate, go
seen
ahead and
it all.
save that, will you? We're going to save this really quickly here.
Please, Nate. Thank you.
So, for those of you on Facebook Live, this is the time where we save it because we had the one episode out of now 80. One episode out of 80 that my laptop, huh? You were on that episode, and it crashed, and we had also had a phone interview with Ernesto Padilla. That was our one time trying it, like where it was like way before all the stuff we have now, and we were holding a speakerphone to the one mic, and Ernesto talked for about 45 minutes. We were going through it, and then all of a sudden I had the laptop sitting next to me, and it just went to the desktop. Like, I've never had this Mac crash and it's older. I bought it in like 2011, right? And it's still killing it. And the one time I had like a guy calling in from Florida,
Of course.
you know, we're all doing this, and then Nate and I sat in the garage trying to re-record it off of Instagram Live because we were doing an Instagram Live at that point for the 24 hours is available. But that was before we did Facebook Live. And I know he was tipsy. I know I was hammered by the end of that night. It was like 2:30 in the morning. We're just like sitting there replaying what we just did for 2 hours, and it's like, no, we're gonna get through this.
I took
We're
the
gonna get
day
through
off
this.
work the next day already, so
That's
I was
funny.
good.
Yeah,
Well, I
exactly.
want to. Kylie says, honest question. What do you say to someone to gently let someone know they can't smell through the cellophane? What do you say, Steve?
It's you say, hey, hang on, let me see that real quick. If you really want to, you say, I tell you what, you can I see that real quick, and then you just do this. If you guys are watching on the video here, because we're not recording the audio yet, right?
Correct.
So you just kind of like you can probably smell a little bit better like that.
Yeah. Right.
That's a concierge type, you know, like
Yeah.
butler type, first class type of way of doing it. I know there's other cigar shops out there that are going to look at them and be like, you know, you can't smell it through there, right?
Right.
So I'm about upselling. So once I notice
love
that,
this. I
I
wanna see
grab
where
a
this
few
goes.
more cigars in cellophane and say, if you like how that smells, you're going to love these.
That's a dick move.
And hit them for about 3 or 4 more.
Dick move.
I love it.
You gotta
Well,
get the money
I prefer
somewhere.
cigars that have working in retail. I prefer cigars that have the cellophane because I'm sure you guys have seen being in the industry. people take a cigar off the shelf that's not in cellophane,
Right.
and they go to smell it,
And put it
and
right
they just
up on
rub
their
it right
nose.
across their
Yeah.
nose.
Yeah, picking up every oil.
I always sit there and go, well, whether you like that one or not, you're paying for it
buying
because
that.
I can't sell that to the next guy because you just rubbed your nose on
Your
it.
nose is
I
running
can't
also,
ethically
by the
do
way.
Well,
that.
here's the flipping though too, as a retailer, and going back to being retail and being serious for a minute. The problem now with cellophane is you guys put the barcode over the flap, so to open it up like you
You gotta
just
be real
said,
delicate. You gotta be real
Right.
delicate.
you got to start taking those stickers off, and even like Fuente started barcoding now, which is a beautiful thing. Fuente finally barcoded their cigars, but they perforated where you
Yeah. It's supposed to
pull
be
that
easier.
off, so it's easier. So I don't have to actually peel the sticker; it just kind of cut line there,
Oh, really?
so that you
Yeah.
could open it and then allow someone to smoke it or smell it.
For us, with us
put it
not
together.
having the doors that open in our shop, so it's not a walk-in.
Yeah, you're a little different.
You can
scenario.
do it, and then it's pretty rare that you bring out a cigar and it's had that perforation taken off. If they're smoking it there, it's easy because would you like me to cut that for you? You take it out,
Sure.
and boom. Otherwise, you just ring them up. They're out the door. They're not going to think much of it as long
But
as
you'll
it's
get
cello.
you'll get
But
a
you're
guy
right.
who want to smell 10, 15 cigars and starts ripping through cello.
Well, then they start like, oh, this doesn't really feel all
Right.
that fresh, or it's too soft, and it's like, sir, you just crushed that cigar.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you need to calm down.
Yep.
And
All the
right.
time.
real quick before we start re-recording again,
Yeah.
while we're still just on Facebook, the gentleman that tuned in from Australia while he's on his lunch break,
Yeah, I saw that on the lunch
he would
break.
he would
awesome.
like Steve and Rob each to say "G'day, mates" in an Australian accent the best you can.
Oh, wow. G'day, mate.
I'm going to do it Dumb and Dumber. I want to do it. Let's throw another shrimp on the barbie.
I hope that was good
accent. Where are you
enough.
from? Austria. Oh, good day, mate. Fucking Jim Carrey. I love that
Yeah,
shit. That was
absolutely.
classic.
That was great.
That was classic.
That was great.
And thanks for tuning in.
And I gotta give a
Good
shout
day,
out
mate.
to my brother. He's watching tonight. Sean Bustler. He's the man who led to my entry into this industry.
Oh,
so,
that's beautiful.
Well, we're
yeah.
gonna give shout outs. My wife is watching. It's her birthday today, so happy birthday.
Oh.
What's her name?
Stephanie.
Happy
Stephanie.
birthday,
Happy
Stephanie.
birthday, Stephanie.
Cheers to you.
Cheers.
Cheers, honey.
And you're here. You
Yeah,
better be working.
So, well, I guess we're gonna get into positive changes.
That's it.
But,
All right. Well, that's before we go 3 hours on the Facebook. But let's get back into this here. You ready there?
Yeah. Let's bring it back.
So when we're talking about all this stuff, I want to kind of like do the segue here. When you look at some of the stuff we're doing with Basil Hayden's, we're doing stuff with Basil Hayden's. We're looking at, we're talking about the Rocky Patel type of cigars, doing different things constantly and all that stuff. The topic tonight is the positivity of change. And when we were looking at that topic, when I was kind of coming up with this, in my notes, I'm looking at, personal life, all this stuff. But this is a very big issue that people have to deal with, because if you don't change, you become stagnant, whether it be business, whether it be your personal life, whether it be your physical fitness, whether it be your diet, whether it be your relationships, whatever it is. You look at what we were talking about with the Basil Haydens, and I didn't go full-blown segue earlier, but looking at what they're doing with these ryes, they're changing things. They're looking at the opportunity, which a lot of times with change is something that is overlooked.
Right.
You got your
Absolutely.
staple product, and you're like, we're just going to ride this out until we retire, we sell the business.
Right.
You know what I mean? Things are going well at home. I'm not really going to change anything. I'm just going to kind of go into it, and every day is the same. And for the next 20, 50 years, whatever it might be, we're going to be happily married. We're going to be in a happy relationship, and everything's going to go well. No, shit's always changing.
Every day.
Always changing,
And even faster today.
even faster today, and there are the good times where you're actually trying to be proactive, or you see the opportunity for new change that is going to actually benefit you and the people surrounding you, or the business that you're in. And then with the cigars, the same way. You look at Rocky Patel, stuff we talked about already tonight. You have Honduran stuff coming out mainly, and then all of a sudden it's like you have a guy like Rocky Patel saying, no, I need to expand. I see the need or the benefit for myself and also my family, everyone that works for me. I can employ more people. I can grow this by doing this change.
Absolutely.
A lot of times I feel like on this podcast we talk about the conversation can go kind of the negative side of change, or the reason for change is a negative thing. We can talk about that, but I wanted to frame the conversation with there are a lot of things that if you can stay ahead of the curve and actually change things proactively that are building upon some strengths and also going away from some weaknesses. That's really the stuff I want to focus on. But I will say that I know that from a career standpoint, a lot of my change in my life comes from things that I let kind of go too far.
Absolutely.
And it was a negative thing. So I kind of wanted to ask you guys. So Ryan, I know Rob fairly well over the last several years. Ryan, I know you've been in this industry, and I know – so this is another good time for you guys that are listening on the audio side of things. We just had about probably a 5 to 10-minute conversation just on the Facebook Live that'll show up on YouTube. So check out the content on the actual video as well, or subscribe on that part too. But, you were getting into the fact that it's your wife's birthday, Stephanie.
Yep.
Right, so happy birthday, Stephanie. We appreciate you letting us have him tonight, even though he's traveling right now. But it's great to have him on. Talk about, if you will, like some of the changes. And again, I framed it as the positivity of change, because it's not always the time going into the change that is positive. And you find out later that there's positivity in that because everything worked out. Everyone says like, oh, things will work out for the best. Well, you're in a negative situation. You're like, yeah, fuck you. I don't feel like that. That's great. That's a great Hallmark card. Thank you very much. But, with your career in this, I don't know what you were doing before the cigars, but I know you were on the retail side.
Yep.
You did a cigar brand.
Yep.
Now you're doing the distributor.
Yep.
And who knows what the future holds. I mean, Rob was joking about, you might be working for a cigar company at some point, but you have these changes in your career. Yeah, if they were smart, obviously, from what I know.
Look, I'm going to chime in right here because if you know me, I'm a very personable person, and I really, enjoy what this industry has afforded me with the friendships that I've gained, and I consider Ryan to be one of my great friends, and obviously we do great business as well. But certainly a friend first and foremost.
My middle name to Rob is Bonus.
Bonus?
Just so you guys know. In his phone, it's Ryan Bonus Gallenweiss.
He was also too scared to be on the podcast by himself, which is why he's like, hey, I got a buddy coming too. You might know him. I was I do know him, but
I was trying to help break up, you and I just bantering back and forth, or me taking off.
That probably would be a very long and exhausting and pointless podcast.
Very exhausting. But back to my point. Ryan has been one of those guys. In the 5 years I've been doing this, I have gained just such an utmost astounding respect for, because he has been everywhere, done everything, and he's dealt with a lot of situations where he has had to make change. And Ryan really has this great way of looking at it from a positive point of view. He's always coming up with different ideas, new perspectives, better ways to do things, and I cherish that. Again, just being in the industry for 5 years and only being in the rep position. I've never done the retail. Right. I've never done the wholesale. And, he's someone that I can go to and just listen to and come up with ideas that make me better.
Yeah.
And Ryan, I'll let you speak. Well, because, again, your path through this industry is really amazing.
Yeah.
And I say it, I can't wait to see where it goes. I'm one of your biggest cheerleaders.
This is not just cigar necessarily talk. This is that's, Ryan, you haven't really been on, or you haven't really listened to a whole lot of the episodes, but this is the point where it's like this turns into a typical, cigar group, bourbon group, or just people and friends, or meeting people, hanging out, because when it gets down to this, it's like this is where not only are you learning about the whiskeys, you learn about the cigars, the brands, or all that stuff. This is where you actually learn about whether you're going through change, whether you've been through it, whether you're struggling with it, whatever it is. So that, based off of his kind of disclaimer and explanation there, tell us about kind of some of the stuff that you've gone through in this industry, and then also you were about to jump into it before we started recording again for the audio about you and your wife. Which is a huge
you take a
thing.
lot of risk in this industry. A lot of people see this industry for what we're doing right now. My wife right now, I'll be honest with you, let me tell you what my wife sees right now. She goes, Ryan's out drinking, smoking, hanging out with 4 or 5 dudes in a garage, and I'm watching the kids. That's all she sees,
Literally, she sees that right now.
Right now.
This is like we're not hiding. It's not like there's no assuming here. Like it's happening right now live on Facebook.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yes, everyone else is seeing that as well.
So, but the truth is, there's relationship building, right? So there's a lot more to it. We're hanging out with friends, but friends that we get to work with.
Right.
So tomorrow I might be in Tinder Box Easton, and he might need a product, and now our relationship is better,
Right.
so I'm able to service him. Or if I need to call on Rob for a favor, this bonding helps that relationship.
Completely.
So yes, I'm having fun, absolutely, but there's a lot of work involved to this. I just spent 9.5 hours today on the road visiting premium cigar retailers, and then I end up in a garage smoking cigars, talking to a premium cigar retailer and a rep.
And hopefully thousands of other people.
And thousands of and talking to you. Yeah, absolutely. Talking to you guys. So, but as far as my journey for this, it started with a Craigslist ad, short and sweet, to a premium cigar manager position at a retail store.
Wait. Craigslist ad.
Craigslist ad,
All
looking
right,
for a manager.
You can't just drop that in like
Yeah.
breeze over. So there I was. What category were you in?
It was under
Okay.
personals. It was personals
All
for
right,
sure.
all
Yeah.
right. Misconnections.
Misconnections,
At a cigar
yeah.
shop. All right.
So
cool.
I just moved back from Texas into Michigan. I was looking for a job, and I was looking in the manager business section, and it was cigar store manager, first option. And the guy hired me the next day.
This was in Michigan.
In Michigan, yeah, Daniel Cigars. And 3 days later, he left to the IPCPR. And he left me the keys to a store, and he trusted me. But I'll tell you what, that trust and that respect of allowing me to just be me and learn at my own pace of the premium cigar world.
in the cigar shop.
Yeah, in the cigar shop. He
Managing it,
left
so in a
me 3
leadership
days
role.
in. 3 days in. Keys, code, money, have a good day. So,
It's either trusting or very desperate.
both.
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
All right, that's fair. That's fair.
So, but no, I'm an honest guy. So I sat there and I learned, I studied, and I worked my ass off, and I helped work on that retail shop. A few years later, I had the opportunity to go down to the factories and learn more about tobacco. Shout out Sam Lucia for that opportunity.
Sam,
And-
he's been on. He's watched this several times.
Yeah, I think he's doing the.
man.
Stogie Bird.
Stogie
I
Birds
shared it
now,
on
yeah.
the Stogie Bird Facebook group.
Yeah, so
absolutely.
he's into doing some positive changes, doing something new with what he's done.
Absolutely.
So I got that opportunity, and the Cuevas family, and then a lot of other families I met while I was down there. I got to work with some great people, and from there I went to Nicaragua. I got to meet Nestor Plasencia, work with the Plasencia family, do a couple trade shows. And I found out with the FDA, the finances, what it costs to do a brand. It's a hard challenge. I mean, it's a very
You
hard
came
challenge.
in right at that time.
Right
Yeah.
at that time.
That's
Yeah.
when we launched the Be a Cigar Company.
Yep.
Yep.
And then so
That's why
2006.
it's a house brand still.
So 2016 came around. Obviously, everybody knows the FDA. And I decided, you know what, I couldn't afford to donate money to the CRAs and the IPCPRs. I didn't have that funding. So I decided to start a group called Save the Leaf, where we went around and put our sweat and soul into it to stand on Capitol Hill on August 8th and try to fight for our rights as cigar smokers, your rights.
To make a positive change.
Yeah.
Is that you on the Facebook group?
Save the Leaf, that's our group. Yeah,
I
that was
just
the group
joined that,
started
or I'm
with.
waiting on
Yeah.
approval. So
So
if
I
you're
don't
an
run
admin,
that group
Send
anymore.
a text or something,
Yeah.
Because we can share this podcast to that too.
Absolutely. So there was a great group of people that showed up, and we
Literally this morning.
really that's
All right,
crazy.
good.
So we ran that, and we went out there, and we put our time in over 90 days, and we did a lot of stuff traveling. And at that point, I got contacted by UCD, a distributor who wanted to grow in the premium space. And I had the choice. Do I continue this brand that's probably not going to make it realistically?
It's still around though, right?
It's still around. We still
What's
distribute
just
it.
give it a
So
plug.
Swinger Cigars, our
Swinger
company.
Cigars.
I do a front nine, back nine. It's a golf themed brand. So the distributor allowed me to distribute the brand within their portfolio.
That's a huge win-win.
Yeah, it was win-win for me.
Oh my gosh, that's huge.
They lived.
That's amazing.
Yep, I lived a mile from their warehouse. I didn't even know they existed. They really wanted to get into the space. Now I've been doing it 2.5 years, and it's propelled me to have better relationships with manufacturers that I didn't have on the other side. So just keep growing, and unfortunately, the sacrifice is family. I got 2 kids. My daughter was born. Let's talk about this. My daughter was born a week or 2 before the FDA gave the 90-day grace period, at which point I started Save the Leaf, and I had 90 days to execute. So for the first 90 days, I was in the DR trying to come out with new blends, new packaging, and work on Save the Leaf while my wife was home raising a brand new newborn who didn't even know her father. But that wouldn't get me to the career I'm at now to be able to afford to keep a family and support my family. So A lot of positive changes. You take sacrifices, but those sacrifices pay off.
So it's interesting. You brought up a couple of concepts there that
Yeah.
I want to really kind of dive into a little bit. And Rob, you don't have any kids?
Correct. None.
He was leaning back, and it's so funny. Like we commented about this. Who was on that? I'm just like it's like a press conference. Rob, do you have any kids? Could you speak?
That was Brandon Karst.
Brandon Karst. Yeah, under oath. Do you have any kids?
I do not.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. But no, you're talking about family. You're talking about the job. Like some of these things. I'm not saying the family wasn't necessarily like that's not a planned thing. It's just
Right.
how life develops.
Absolutely.
Not talking about kids necessarily. Obviously, kids can be not planned sometimes. Not
Yeah.
going to put you on the spot on that one. But with the job situations and everything else,
I'll
like
tell you this true story. No one knows this. You got to hear this.
that's about to change.
This is a real
That nobody
true story.
knows
the
this
whole
is.
world will know. My daughter came after I signed an order for Cigars International.
9 months later.
Yes.
Oh, there we go.
Cigars International, New Orleans trade show. They picked up my brand, and I went home and celebrated. So there you go. That's the bourbon.
That's
topic. There you go.
beautiful.
That's amazing.
That's the biggest
that's
fish you
amazing.
could land, right? That was
So
the
there you
biggest
go.
fish
You
could
know,
land.
Yeah.
miracles can happen when it comes down to the cigars and the brotherhood and sisterhood of the leaf. But no, with the with the fact that you had these changes and the steps that you're talking about, there's not always the positive side of it, right?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
Like the fact you're on the road, the fact you had to change jobs, or you had this opportunity where you're like, all right, now things are going to really happen. I'm going to start Swinger Cigars.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you're like, I'm not going to make things happen because of outside factors. We talked about it on the podcast before with it's a typical business thing, obviously, and I recommend you can actually look at your personal life, the SWOT analysis. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not, but
So SWOT analysis, SWOT, it's going to be strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So this is a way that you can look at those types of things, and that's where you look at like the cigar industry, especially much like that. Your strengths are you're personable, you've got the drive, you got your knowledge, all that stuff. Weaknesses, obviously, you've never done it before. There's other things. I'm just like rattling this stuff off. Opportunities, it's a boutique brand. It's something that no one else is doing. I'm doing golf focused. I'm doing all this stuff. It fits. Outside threats, everything that you ran into.
right, absolutely.
And it was just like fucking the
Everything.
brakes. Like
Yeah.
someone pulled the emergency brake as you're driving down, going about 85 down the highway, and
Absolutely.
you're just like, what the fuck? I lost control of it all.
Yep.
And now on the other side of it, that's where I'm that's the topic, the idea here is that how do you change something? Because I want people to get something out of this. How did you change something? And all the while, like you're doing this, now you're having the family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So how do you change this negativity? Because that's going to break some people. It breaks a lot of people.
Yeah, it
when you
breaks
go
a lot
through
of
that.
people, but I think it's just continuation. I mean, I don't know how to otherwise word it. Just keep going.
What went through your head when you had the FDA, ruling come through? It didn't work out. Now all of a sudden you're like, I don't have the money to do the FDA stuff, so I also have a family now.
Well, I mean, keep plugging away and it's going to work out. I mean, it was more of a throwing up a prayer. I'll be honest with you. I went to that trade show on my last dime. I went to the DR on my
That's
last dime.
huge. Last time.
I went to the DR on my last dime. I went to the DR, and I had money in the bank from building my brand, and I had two options. I could either continue with the 6 SKUs that I had
Right.
or invest in creating 20, 30 SKUs in the hopes that the FDA found out what that gray area was. We still don't know. Please.
It's still
let's-
gray, by the
like,
way.
still
For those of you
gray.
that don't
Very
follow,
gray.
if you're watching
Very
this, you don't know
gray.
much about cigar, the
But I am-
industry. It's gray.
I imported and sold 26 SKUs at that time. I invested everything into small batch production and brought out a bunch more lines under my portfolio to keep the brand alive, and then put it on display at the trade show because August was the trade show that year, right before the deadline.
August 2016.
Yeah, so August 8th was the deadline. I think the show ran like the 17th of July that year.
Yeah.
So I had it all on display before the deadline, sold it to some retailers, and then waited. And I'm still waiting because we still don't have an answer. And thank you.
The grace
to
period just
government.
kept getting longer and longer.
Yeah.
And all of that, though, I run into UCD at that show. So if I'm not at that show with that display, running into them and some friends of mine to get that connection, I wouldn't be there. So
Yeah,
just
and-
got to keep pushing.
And I like the practicality, like the explanation, because, we're in the day and age, on Instagram, and Jake, when he's on here, especially episodes in the past, like, he talked about, how he gets annoyed with, like, the motivational Instagram speaker, the ones that are that surface level, basically everything that they're posting is a meme that can be found on a bumper sticker.
Yeah.
So when you say, keep plugging away. What you just said, that's actually impactful. Like, everything that you were doing is because you believed in what you wanted to do, and even with the obstacles coming, you kept doing it with an arm's length. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to sacrifice your family, and you're not going to go, majorly, hopefully, in debt or anything like that. That's not what we're talking about. It's the fact that, you did all this stuff, and then you realize that's that hindsight thing where you don't always realize the positivity behind what's going on. Like, you are clueless. You wake up in the morning, you're like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
Did you have those mornings? Or how many days a week did you have those mornings?
Yeah, you have those mornings every day on the road, I think. So
you do.
We live.
You do.
I mean,
at least 5-ish days a week. You realize
we live
that.
hotel to hotel. Even now, like for the last 2 weeks, I've been on hotel to hotel. So you wake up and you're like, man, I wish I could be home. But at the end of the day, there's a passion to it. Once anybody has an opportunity out there, I'm telling you this. If you could ever go, I know Rocky Patel offers it. Altadis, I think, offers it. Drew Estate has a safari. If you can ever go to a tobacco facility in a third world country, whether it be Honduras, Nicaragua, go to Esteli, go to Santiago, Dominican Republic, and if you can see the amount of people that are fed, that children get education either through like the Fuente Foundation and Placencia Foundation and all these things, if you can see the true passion behind these brand owners that doesn't just go to that party you went to and bought 3-in-1 and got a drink to, with Jonathan, if you go back and see his medical facility on his factory to take care of the people in a third world country, when you buy a $7 cigar, when you see what it does on the back end, you get up every morning and go sell cigars.
No, I like that
bro,
passion.
you give me a chill just saying it.
And watch. So we already talked about the.
Take that opportunity. Rocky Patel does it.
They do.
Take the opportunity.
Right
go
now,
see it. You're safe.
Just a kind of a glimpse into it. Again, I'm not plugging anything. I'm not getting anything from it. But that hand-rolled documentary does give you a little bit of a glimpse into that.
Too, man.
They really do.
Chills
You've seen it, Ryan?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you have that right now. I know there's other shops out there. So your local brick and mortar. Talk to them about Camp Camacho, because we just did a Camacho event, right? Camacho so they've reinstated their Camp Camacho, and that's something that right now, if you're in the Columbus area, especially if you buy 5 Camachos, you're going to get 2 Camachos free. We're highlighting the distillery series, but I'm not just making a plug necessarily for that, because, I mean, what you're saying is so impactful, but I'm saying there's opportunities out there. We're doing that, and at the end of August, we're giving away 2 prizes. If you buy 5, get 2, you're going to get a raffle ticket. At the end of August, we're going to be raffling off this gorgeous Camacho humidor, and then also a $650 value ticket to Camp Camacho. You pay air flight, airfare and everything else. Once you get there and until you leave on that airplane, they pick you up. They basically, you smoke your brains out, you drink, you eat, you see the fields, you see all this stuff. There are opportunities out there that you can sign up for, even if you have to win it.
Right.
I mean, they like, these companies want to educate. They want you to see what goes into, you say $7 cigar or a $10 cigar that you think $10 is a little steep. I'd rather smoke a $9 cigar. And you're like, when it comes down to it, those are like peanuts in the whole equation.
Well, that's the most common thing. When people come back from a Rocky Patel tour, you hear all the time, I can't believe I paid $10 for this cigar.
200 hands, they say.
300
hands, what they're saying with what's the brand out there? Southern Draw. They have the 300 hands.
They are saying,
where they're talking about all the people that touched the leaf.
That's any trip. That's any experience.
Right. Anyone. Go to anyone you can get to.
It's amazing.
I'm saying
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's humbling.
Not even plugging the cigar side of it. It's any vacation. It's any new experience.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a part of this too, is the change of the you become stagnant, right? You are now mentally drained, and that mentally draining part of it, you don't sleep. You physically start draining, and all of a sudden everything is sacrificed. Taking trips like this that are around a hobby you have, it's even more impactful. Yeah. If you just need to get away, take a vacation, do that. Because I really think that there's something there that you do all this stuff you guys are talking about. For those of you that are in cigars or into cigars, this is an opportunity for you to do something like that and really gain another appreciation, not only for the hobby that you're involved in, but the business aspect of it. the passion behind it, the people that are behind it, the families that are behind it, and then also the families that are actually doing this, the support it has for that. What were you going to say, Rob?
No, I was sharing so Ryan could see the comments of all our viewers, which is
Ray Cheshire from Vietnam right now. 200 hands, and then I put that thing in my mouth.
Right. Well,
exactly,
and that's exactly it. We.
But you've been doing that so long, and you've enjoyed it for so long.
He
so
has.
don't think about it now.
Absolutely, and it is. It's one of the things. A lot of things in life we take things for granted, of course. And we look at what we spend on something. We look at the value that it gives to us.
Yeah.
But we don't always look at what's behind it. And that's what those factory tours really allows. It gives us the chance. I know the first time I went down, and again, for me as a rep, it was a blessing to see the factories, see the fields, but also just the culture.
Yeah.
And just to see these people who, in a sense have less, and I use air quotes when I say less than us.
You don't need air quotes for that one.
No,
right?
It's humbling, dude. It's humbling, super
and
humbling.
The way they treat you and look forward to making your experience the best you've ever had. If you don't walk away with some feel goods, you're messed up, man.
Yeah,
you really are. It's one of the
Absolutely.
most beautiful experiences I've ever had. It's one of the, I always, when I do my events and go to my lounges and I'm hanging out talking with the guys and gals that are hanging out, I tell them, whether it is a Rocky Patel, or Camacho or a Drew Estate, whoever's tour you go to, it'll positively change you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I mean, you're
beautiful.
learning.
Yeah.
There's so much stimulation, and there's emotion behind it, which is very much overlooked a lot of times with new experiences.
And back to the top of the positive change, so for me, and for us, obviously we have to have a paycheck to survive. So we're all chasing a paycheck. Don't get us wrong.
Right, of
But
course.
honestly,
There's a level of that, yeah. in
When
everything
you go
do,
to the
yeah.
factory, I think the paycheck becomes a little bit less important, and the drive becomes, wow, look at what we're part of.
Right.
Look at what
Look,
we're a part of every
Yeah.
day.
I don't mean to sound like a company guy. I really don't.
I think anyone from your company watching right
As
now would
smiles.
differ with you.
I genuinely, and I said this the last time I was on here, I genuinely like and respect the guys that I work with and work for.
Yeah.
I am blessed to be with a family. And we are a family. It's why Stacy Guzman, who has been watching earlier. She was with Rocky for some years, but she logs in to watch. We keep in contact with people who have been in the industry, been part of the company, and continue.
I'm going to pause you for 1 second.
Yeah,
if Madeline's watching, I love you. Good night, because
Yeah.
my daughter's watching. So
She
Good
says,
night,
good night,
Madeline.
good night,
Madeline.
Madeline. Thank
Good
you.
night,
Sorry about the
Madeline.
language.
sorry about that.
Yeah.
But
Happy birthday.
but it is. It's watching these guys like Rocky Patel, who has been and continues to be regarded as one of the hardest working men in the industry.
Who went through a huge change.
Who went through
we alluded to
huge
earlier.
changes, positive changes to make this dream happen. His brother, Nish Patel, that guy, look, Rocky being, the head of the company, he's obviously pulled in 100 different directions.
His name is on it.
and you have my guy Nish out there, just doing everything to make this company work day to day. Nimish, doing the same thing.
Nimish is a cousin.
Nimish
Is that
Desai,
right?
the cousin.
Yeah.
And it's all. And with me, when I'm out there and I'm out there selling cigars, I love what I do because of the guys I work for.
Absolutely.
It makes me feel good when I'm out there and I can get somebody who has that idea that they don't like Rocky Patel's cigars, and I can explain to them and show to them, and obviously with Rocky and his efforts with the FDA, and him being that celebrity-esque face, people know Rocky, and they love that personal experience that they get from him being a just a good person. It is. I love the hearts of these people. The Cynthia Fuentes, the Jonathan Drews. I mean, come on.
Top notch. No matter which direction you go, Dominican, Nicaragua, Honduras, people on the forefront here, back front, the best.
Right.
The best.
Absolutely.
And I guess to go back to your positive change in life, I think my biggest positive change in my life, I know we're kind of being personal here, would be...
That's where this goes.
Yeah.
You learn very quickly.
Getting into the cigar industry was probably my biggest positive change.
What were you doing before that? Now,
I sold life
was actually going to
insurance.
ask Rob, and I will, but go back to that. What were you doing before?
So I sold life insurance.
Okay.
And you always was selling people like riders and return a premium and all this stuff, and you knew they couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
And you're only selling them a beneficiary that these insurance companies are going to try not to pay. You charge them $200 a month for 30 years, and when they die, they're like, "Oh, you never told us this guy stubbed his toe 15 years ago, and now we're not going to pay this."
Oh.
And you get, I mean, my magnet was on people's fridge, so when the guy dies,
Was your picture on it?
No, I try to be behind the scenes. I really do.
I feel like that should have. You should have been one of those pictures on there.
But when you get that
life
phone,
size,
when you get that phone call,
that
you're
would
like,
have been over the fridge.
Yeah.
How tall are you, Ryan?
I'm 6'9".
So you about 7 foot.
Yeah.
On a good day.
So when
you imagine a life-size magnet.
I love it.
That'd be a good idea. Marketing 101.
That's a
Right
I
there.
can't
Great
open
idea.
the freezer because Ryan's
Can you
upper
duck
body
Ryan?
is blocking the ice.
I can already see this at an event one day. So no, but you know what? I got out of that industry because I couldn't sleep at night. You get phone calls, "Hey, my dad just died," and they don't want to pay. And whose phone number do they call? The one on their fridge. And it was such a downing industry. I mean, you travel, you're selling people stuff they can't afford, and then you're just like, man, I don't want to do this tomorrow. With cigars, if I sell you a cigar you don't like, I rip open another one. Here you go. Let's talk about it. Let's learn about it. And it's just such a beautiful industry. It really is.
The product of enjoyment is the goal.
It changed
there.
my life. It changed
With
my
life
life
insurance,
completely.
I feel like that should be something that is a feel-good thing. You know what I mean? Like a little bit of money here, which is a lot. You
Yeah.
said people can't afford it necessarily. I mean, it is a chunk of your monthly
Sure.
expenses. I mean, I remember I first got approached at like 25 years old. I'm like, dude, I'm not even thinking about dying. I don't have anyone counting on me.
Right.
You know what I mean? As long as I don't like roll up a bunch of credit card debt, it's like, okay, I'm sorry, it's going to cost a little bit of money that I don't have to bury me if you want to do that. But other than that,
Right.
like I'm not.
Right.
I don't have next to kin other than like people that are older than me at this point.
Right.
Right? Yeah. So Rob, that's what I was going to. You were talking about the Rocky Patel family doing all this stuff, and when you talk about the positivity of change, obviously you found the positivity.
Oh,
and I
yeah,
know you had
absolutely.
some different careers. You have had different relationships. Currently single. Dating. Currently dating. Sorry, we haven't talked in a while about that topic. So if you're watching out there, it's not that he's avoiding it. But, I mean, you go through all these changes, and you're 40 years old now.
42.
40 years old now.
I'll take that.
Recently 39. And, it's something that you've gone through all this stuff. And in hearing you talk, that's what I love about this, because people that are listening, they're either in the same kind of shoes you are right now, or they're where you were before.
Correct.
So bring us back before Rocky Patel. So 30s.
So, originally from Dayton, Ohio, and Dayton Strong.
Cheers to that.
Yeah, cheers to that. So,
I'm glad I'm out of alcohol.
Fix
we
that.
can change that real quick.
As long as I'm not saluting Dayton, Ohio.
No, we're talking about what happened, man.
Yeah, with the tragedy.
Oh, I apologize.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
that's all right.
no, yeah, of course.
There you go.
So
Nice stock there.
Dayton, Ohio is where I was born and raised. Father was Air Force, so that's where I got my beginnings at. And then finally, around 27, I decided some positive change had to happen
Why?
because I had to get out of my bubble. I had to get out of my safe space.
I remember you saying that, and I like that. I like that concept.
It
That's
was
stagnant. The
right.
stagnant way of living.
Absolutely.
Nothing was necessarily wrong.
No, nothing was wrong at
Okay.
all. I mean, I had a lot of good in my life at that point, but to kind of make it to, the next level, whether personally, professionally, I had to make that change. So an opportunity presented itself, and I was able to move up to Chicago. I did 12 years up there.
What were you doing in Dayton?
Manufacturing industry, selling gearboxes and gear motors.
Widgets,
stuff people don't know about unless they know about it. If you ever tour a factory, the parts on those machines, that's what I sold. And I love the industry and so many great people in that industry. I'm a relationships guy.
Yeah.
Mean, so I was blessed to form some great relationships, and I still have some of those relationships to this day. But unfortunately, or not unfortunately necessarily, but with the internet, that industry, the personableness, the sales of that industry just really died. Because it was engineering. So everything that was needed was available online, whether in catalog or a program that did all the engineering, and most of my days were spent sending emails.
So now it's a desk job.
It is a complete desk job.
Yeah.
And I became bored, and I was down in Florida on a vacation, and while I was down there, I drove down to Naples, and where Bonita Springs is where the offices of Rocky Patel are, just outside of Naples. My good friend Sean had been working for Rocky Patel for some years at the time, so going down to visit Sean, I got to know the guys. I got to know Rocky and Nish and Nimish and Dave Bullock, VP of Sales. So I got to know the group and people at the office from going out and having dinners and such. And when I was down on the vacation that time, stopped by the office to say hi to those people.
Through the friend,
through Sean.
Yeah.
Yep. My brother. And lo and behold, they needed somebody in Chicago. They needed somebody in that area, in that territory.
And that's where you were at that time.
Yeah.
You
I was living
moved
in
out of your bubble. You had been, you made the move, the change.
Right, absolutely. And
Simply
it was
because of the stagnant behavior that you were in.
And there couldn't have been a more positive change in my life than those 12 years I spent in Chicago. When it was time to leave, I did. I looked forward to it. The congestion, the cost of living, and everything. And
I remember you telling me too that you were happy to get closer to home.
Absolutely,
you have family. Still
I'm very blessed. I got a great family in the Dayton area, Dayton and Cincinnati. And when Nick Mitchell, as you mentioned earlier, when he got promoted, and I had the opportunity to change that territory, I jumped on it. And
no hesitation.
No, there was zero hesitation.
Why?
Because at that time I was 39-ish, single, no kids, and my people is my family. I mean, they've made me who I am. I'm blessed, and I look forward to every opportunity I get to have with my family. Even that I'm closer, I'm on the road a lot.
That's true. Yeah. What's your territory now?
Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky, and half of Indiana. I've been on a 3-week run where I've been home 3 days in 3 weeks, and none of them consecutive.
This is how I know. So I stay up late a lot of nights, but this is how I know that Rob has been running and running and running. I'll send him a text at like 3 p.m.
And I reply.
And he replies, and we finish the conversation at like 1:30 a.m.
Yeah. Yep. So many days that way. So many days.
Absolutely.
So many days.
I love that, though. Like, you're like, I know he might be up. I might as well send it.
Absolutely.
That's how that relationship works.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
that.
Exactly. It's, if you will, the nature of the beast. It was the opportunity that this industry had provided for me was to get back to, kind of who I am. I'm very personable. I love making friends. I love the relationship building. I love working with friends to do good business, Ryan. And that opportunity was just granted to me, and I fell into it. I didn't know. I mean, I knew of the cigar industry, certainly, because I was a cigar smoker, but I had no idea to the level that this industry was. We always say it's a big small industry, and it really is. And I say it all the time, and I know I'm that hokey kind of guy when I do.
You are hokey.
Yeah, I am very hokey.
I love that about you.
But I mean it. I'm sincere in it. I love what it has afforded me, because even though those days get long, when you have 3 weeks on the road and, like I said, 3 days at home, none of them consecutive, you look
Your
forward.
ceiling is leaking.
Yes.
He comes home and he sent me a picture message. He's like, so this is what I walked into. His couch is pushed aside, and in his new house, the drywall ceiling is collapsed. And he's like, turns out there was a leak. And I was like, do you need help? He's like, I got it.
I got it.
All right.
Right. You know, and there's still that hole in the ceiling. Yes. I hope to have that patched up sooner than later.
The next year or two.
Right.
You know,
exactly.
Don't rush. Let it air out.
Exactly. That's what I'm doing. But seriously, you know, I was in Evansville, Indiana on Friday doing an event, and shout out to Cigar out in Evansville, Indiana. What an amazing group of people, great owner and Tom, great manager and David Wells, and what a great group of people, you know, and that's what I look forward to.
So important.
Because when I spend those days on the road working hard, you know, I bought, as I told you guys earlier, I got here with my new vehicle.
Gorgeous.
And I've had it for 3 weeks. I have 3,000 miles on it. And, you know, that's my life. You know, that's what we do.
Tough on the resale.
It's tough on the resale. Yes, you are correct.
Plan on owning that for 6 months and selling it, right? Keep the mileage down.
Right. But the payoff is you guys.
I know.
I mean, it really is.
Absolutely.
It's when I'm in Detroit and I'm hanging out with Ryan and the guys at Ambassador and RYO and all the guys, that I look forward to seeing.
UCD.
Well, no,
I know.
Shango's,
Listen, Rocky Shango's a big competitor, but he's a great guy.
He's amazing.
He's a good guy.
The Shangos are great. But, you know, I mean, seriously, that's what I look forward to. And that's what the positive change of it was, where I was sitting behind this computer sending emails all day long, and I did. It was tough waking up in the morning.
But you had a good paycheck. You had a steady job.
I had a really good paycheck.
You had a steady life.
I had a steady life.
You knew where you were going at the end of the day.
Absolutely. There was so much good. There was so much positive in it, certainly. One of my best friends, Terry Dellis, came from working in that industry, and I cherish her every day of my life for the friendship that I was able to get through that industry, and there's others as well, certainly. Right. But then I pop into this industry, and wow. I mean, some of my best friends, Mikey Zahn, Alex Merrick, Kylie Bedreau, Heather Sobel, you guys, I have these great relationships that I never would have had
absolutely
reached. And that's what was so beautiful about making that change, making that leap. Certainly, obviously on the business level, the money making level, I do well. Rocky Patel Cigars is a beautiful company to work.
Keep buying
for.
Rocky Patel,
please.
If you want to see Rob on the podcast again,
if you want to see Rob with that Speedo,
that ain't gonna happen.
We'll post his vacation schedule here coming up on the podcast page, and the Tinder Box page, and the BS Cigar Company page, and my personal page.
So what you're saying is you could afford a regular bathing suit. You chose the Speedo.
I chose the Speedo.
You chose less fabric.
Hey, I used to be 370, and where I'm at, I'm rocking a Speedo today. I'm proud of it.
I would love to have you on next week. We're going to talk about self-image.
Oh, wow.
And talking about the changes you can make.
I'm going to be up in Traverse City, Michigan.
Tune in.
But I'll tune in, and I'll make a comment.
Absolutely. Nate, what did you want to say, Nate?
Well, one of the things that I've noticed you guys talking about, and it's also something that I've experienced personally, there's a difference, it seems, between you making a choice to make a positive change in your life and then things happening to you that you didn't choose. And I think a lot of times when things happen to you, it tends to be more of a negative. So,
absolutely.
So what my question is...
say that again. I think it's a powerful statement there.
So... when you make a choice for yourself, when you choose to make a change, you're choosing to make a positive change. But sometimes circumstances happen to you that you didn't choose. It wasn't your choice. And those tend to be more negative for one way or the other, whether it's losing a job, losing a relationship, something like that. It's something that you didn't choose to do. So positive choice versus a negative change, as Rob burns his face off.
They may not be able to hear you over the lighter.
Could you use two hands doing that?
So the question I had, and this doesn't have to be cigar related, it can be any other personal thing out there that's happened to you. When a negative change happens in your life, how do you try and keep the positivity? How do you keep a positive mindset when a negative change is forced upon you?
I'll let you guys answer that.
You know what? I'll jump right in. Foundation, man. Foundation.
Explain that.
I say over and over again, and people who know me have heard it 1,000 times. I say it on here. My blessing, my family. The reason I'm back in Ohio, I have that foundation. I have those people I know I always have back. I have a great group of friends as well that I consider family, people that I've known for countless years. And, I mean, that's what makes it easier, because we all do go through those hardships in life, certainly. And, I try to be empathetic to those that don't have what I've been blessed to have. And without that foundation, it's almost difficult to keep that positive outlook. But then on the other hand, I know people who don't have that backing as I have had, who in light of that are always fighting. They just have that fighter mentality.
Well, Ryan said that, keep plugging away.
Right, absolutely.
I have a tattoo that says...
Where is it?
I'm not showing it, but
I didn't
it's
ask
on my
you to
arm.
show it.
Yeah, it's on my arm.
All right.
But it says it's based on a poem that was written. It's called "The Rose That Grew from Concrete."
Yeah.
And it's really deep.
Great.
It's tattooed on my arm, and it means something to me personally. But no matter what stands in your way, you can make it through it. But the real meaning behind it is you can make it through it when everybody tells you it's impossible.
Absolutely.
That's the difference.
Say that again. I like doing that with
Yeah.
you. Say that again, because it's
So
it's
the
a powerful
rose
statement.
that grew from concrete, the world says a rose cannot grow from concrete. But if you have the ambition, the power, and the courage to go through whatever stands in your way, you're going to make it. But that's internal.
Yes.
That's internal.
Exactly.
And you got to be able
It's
to
our
own yourself to get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
You are
sure.
absolutely.
All I have are weeds growing through my cracks in the blacktop.
That's
right
where
now.
it
I'm
starts,
waiting
though.
for the
There's a
roses.
flower. There's a flower coming.
I'm not gonna park in my driveway as soon as roses.
There's a flower coming.
You keep saying that.
Yeah.
You come back next spring and we'll see. All right, we'll come.
I'll be your rose, Steve.
I'll
be your rose.
Like in Titanic. I do want to shout out to Scott, who just, I don't know if you're tuning in for the first time. We did share to a few new pages, but he's like, you guys have a great show. Love popping in. Good chemistry and great storytelling. Liked and going to share. We appreciate that. I mean, that's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
Having you guys on, Ryan, for the first time. You said it earlier in the second part of this.
Thank you for having me. Seriously,
Absolutely.
Steve, thank you for having me
It's
on.
my pleasure. My house is your house, and it's one of those things where you're like, I see this getting personal.
Yeah.
That's what, Rob has been absolutely just dancing around is I heard a couple things here with Rob Patel. It's family.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
So then it's with this community, with coming back to Ohio. He started with family. He calls them my people. I don't hear that a lot when people are talking about their family. These are my people. It's my family, my friends, all this stuff. He's talking about family as my people, and I think there's a different identity to that. And a lot of times when you talk about, let's quickly focus on the business side of it, it's not always necessarily doing what is a passion. It's not always like I'm in an industry that it's doing something that I want to be a part of, like cigars, right? So you could be in any other industry, Rob, I feel like, and if it was your people, those widgets, the lifestyle, if you had the personal interactions, you could be on the road again selling widgets. You could be selling, Kirby vacuums, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
But the people you're working with and for and you surround yourself are your people and you have that kind of family mentality.
Absolutely.
That's, I think, something that people miss. And I know we're talking about positivity of change, and I think that's something that if you realize sometimes that you're not in a community around you, you're not surrounding yourself with good people.
Dude, we're pack animals, bro.
Yeah.
We're pack animals. And we all want that. Obviously in the day and age of social media and internet and everything, so much instant gratification and everything is done through those phones. I mean, obviously, being some older gentleman here,
Older is accurate, gentleman is loose. Go on.
We've all had those conversations and seen, younger people when, they're in that group and their faces are buried in cell phones and, and that's just the lifestyle that they live. I do. It's disheartening to me, because I remember the first time I went on a cruise. It was such a great experience because I go on this boat. We're out there on the ocean. Those cell phones don't work. And I use my cell phone just as much as anybody else. But we're out there and everybody's talking to each other.
You unplug.
And it was one of the most beautiful things. And, obviously at my age, I remember the days before cell phones. And
Ryan, how old are you? Get after it.
32.
Yeah. Right.
All right.
Young guy here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Younger.
But I remember
With two
those
kids
days.
and a family and a traveling sales job. Yeah. So young.
Right. Right. Exactly.
He
Exactly.
has elements in his life that, you, Rob and I, even though we're older, he's older than us.
Absolutely.
Those
Right now.
elements.
I'm surprised
he's
he has
older-
a full head of
older.
hair.
That's what I was getting at.
By
Those elements
experience.
are the hair. Right? The hair. I got 10 years to lose it.
That's
still,
what you
so-
got so far.
Yeah, I
man.
still have my hair.
Yeah. You're ahead of us in your head game.
I want to call out Kylie here for a minute because what she just wrote was pretty inspirational. I save up money to prepare for a financial burden. I do the same with my spirituality bank. I add to my spirit. I can't even say this
Spirituality.
word. The bourbon is very good, guys. I mean, if you guys get a chance to try this,
I love the fact that you say that you're not much of a drinker and you you're
It's sweet. It's
everything.
so
yeah,
sweet.
yeah. I love it. Go
All
on.
right, but the spirituality bank daily, she keeps adding to it, so that if anything bad happens, she has it saved up. So I think that's pretty positive.
Yeah, that's very
It's a
positive.
daily thing.
Yeah, it is. It's a daily thing. I mean, we've got to take care of our home and ourselves being our home. We've got to do what it is, whether it's through meditation, whether it's through exercise, whether it's through the people we surround ourselves with. I mean, there's so much that we have to do on a daily basis to keep that bank full because this is life. There are going to be unfortunate scenarios that present themselves. And as I mentioned earlier, that foundation is key. Yeah. Whether it be family, whether it be friends, whether it be spirituality, whatever it is that connects with you, that's what's going to give you that ability to make a positive change when those scenarios present themselves.
And Michelle Stewart says, I just think of Rob Wilson when things get down. I like that. You always have to find your inspiration. and I'll say, I want to build off of that. Just so
I love yous, all of you.
Nate, that will go to you. Actually, Nate, go ahead. You got your hands on it. So he's the producer again. So he's got his hand. I always see the hand on the mixer about ready to turn up his microphone. He leans in, and even if I start talking, I know that he can just move his hand over and just turn down our three mics.
I love that we have a mic for Nate now.
The producer mic is huge. Isn't it?
It's amazing. He is our Paul Schaefer.
Robin on Howard Stern. Robin. Gibbons.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And obviously,
Notice he knew that last name real quick.
And the good thing
Yeah,
about
yeah.
Nate is Nate has been in many facets of this industry. Obviously, just as a human being, he's been through and done many things and dealt with many things in life. But just the connection is beautiful. So I love his opinion.
Do you know where he gets this experience? How he knows what the hell he's doing back there? He tell him before you say your point.
So I've been the audio-visual director of my church for 10 years.
Amen.
And this board was actually donated temporarily from our church. This is our old analog board.
Yeah.
Right, nice.
Awesome.
Making things
Awesome.
happen. Go ahead with your point now.
Yeah, please.
Well, since you guys brought up Michelle, one of the things I want to talk about
Michelle brought up Michelle.
yeah. But
Which she does.
Michelle from CLE Cigars, one of the things that she said very early on in the episode,
By the way, one of the best.
yeah, she's very great, is
Fragile. I think
change.
fragile.
Change
She's
equals
killer.
growth.
Change equals growth.
And one of the things I want to touch on, kind of expand on that a little bit for you guys. Do you find that it's easier to grow from you making those positive choice or when it's that forced change upon you?
You know what? I'll touch on this real quick.
Go ahead,
because as I was talking earlier about my change to move to Chicago, to get out of that bubble, to get out of that safe zone, I say a million times throughout the year, the best thing that ever happened to me was going to Chicago. Because and meeting you, Steve.
Thank you.
But before that, it was making that decision to move to Chicago. I wasn't in a bad place. I had a great job. I had everything I could have wanted. I had a beautiful house, roommated with my buddy Sean and my brother Rick, and life
I love
was
how your
good.
story keeps intertwining.
Right. It does.
That's how the good stories
Right.
happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I did. I had everything, and to pick up and make that change, it wasn't easy. And the same thing, moving back to Ohio, as much as I wanted to be close to my family, again, I had a good thing in Chicago. I had some amazing customers in that territory that I covered. I still speak to them this day, because they are friends. They are extended family, and I cherish those to this day. But I knew when moving to Chicago, I had to do something for myself. I had to get out of that comfort zone because I would not have grown the way I had.
Right.
And the same thing moving back to Ohio. I needed that change because I needed that spiritual kind of change. I needed to be back with the people who filled my cup.
I love that. Say that again.
I needed to be with the people who filled my cup.
Yes.
The
I love
people
that.
who on my day-to-day they know who I am, not for business, not for anything face value. They know who I am. They know where I've been. They know where I come from, and they give me what I need on a daily to be better at everything I do. Because they allow me the strength that I cherish it. I cherish it. And and again, not to be a company guy, I am so grateful to be with Rocky Patel and to have that opportunity. And where I was at in my previous industry, I had done a lot in that territory.
Yeah.
It wasn't the most stable territory. But when I presented it to Dave Bullock and said, this is why I'm looking to make that change, Dave being a family man, the company always talking about the RP family, the foundation of who we are. They got it. I remember when it was my last year with that territory. Before I had made my move at IPCPR, I made the move right after 2 years ago. And we had our company dinner, and we're all talking, and speeches are being made, and Dave actually he speaks on that. He spoke on the opportunity for me to move to this territory to be with family, and the gentleman who replaced me, Jeff Pawelski, who took over that territory. The reason he ended up taking that job, retired police officer down in Florida, he took that opportunity to be back closer to family in Chicago. I always make the joke is like we're a Hallmark special,
Yeah.
But that's really it, is finding what makes you who you are, what gives you that drive, what pushes you further, and I think that's what we're all looking for. Because when you have that backing,
Yeah.
whether it be family, whether it be friends, whether it just be something you built for yourself through desperation, it's honing in on that, recognizing that, and bringing it to where you need to be.
Well, I think it sparks a question for me, So I want to the topic of positive change, but you mentioned something, and for me, it's not what the change for me was going into cigars. But I think the more important thing to that change was the change a good decision, right? So the question I'm bringing up, and I'm going to answer it too, is I made the change, but what made me know that change was worth it?
Yeah.
And so
At the time, or are you talking about now?
Now, or looking back, or going through the whole phase.
At the time, you were scared shitless.
Scared
Right.
shitless,
I
right?
guarantee it.
Scared shitless. Don't know what I'm going to do.
absolutely.
I moved back to my parents' basement. You know what I mean? I'm
Which
going
everyone
through a
wants
change.
to do in life.
I
I mean, that's
now-
like a goal. That's like a check box. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, all right, so I did this, and I'll see you, mom and dad, later.
Correct.
There's a treadmill in my bedroom. How's the basement looking?
Right. Absolutely.
Go
no.
ahead.
But so the thing that kept me in the change, and you mentioned this, Rob, and it's something that really does mean something to me, not just going to the factories and seeing the people, but this is an old school industry. And so you mentioned like putting the cell phones down. How many times we walk in the shop and we're just shooting the shit like we're doing right now,
Yeah.
and we're not on the cell phone. Yeah, we're using
Right.
the cell phone to
Yeah,
communicate with you guys.
don't talk too bad about it if you're watching on Facebook
No, we're
Live right
communicating
now.
with you guys through the technology.
Listen on the audio while you're
And
working out
thank
or something.
technology for us being able to communicate.
Right.
But this is an industry where we still shake hands, smoke a cigar, and we
Absolutely.
build relationships the old school way. And that's what kept me in the change.
Yeah.
And
That's
I
the
think
foundation of this podcast. Is
Yeah.
this part of it? This
Yeah,
is what
absolutely.
it all leads to,
Yeah,
right? You know
and
what I
that
mean?
kept me in
yeah.
it. No matter where you come from. Doesn't matter what race, what demographic, where you're from, what you did. You're a doctor, you're homeless. When we light a cigar, we're the same.
Absolutely.
If you pour a glass,
When
Yeah.
Rob became our rep 2 years ago, and I don't think there was a hard transition for you. I think you were pretty much welcomed pretty well, whether it was ambassador, UCD, RYO, and it wasn't because just
Tinder
Nick
Box at Easton.
Tinder Box, whether it was Nick introducing you, but it wasn't within 5 minutes we took to you, and you're part of that family no
Right.
matter what territory you're in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of this industry,
You are
which
correct.
is why I've stayed in it.
Right.
Here's what I'll say. You know what I mean? And then we'll kind of wrap this up because
Yeah. We're dragging here.
No, we're not dragging. This is the thing, Ryan. It's your first time on, and like there was a time where we kept drinking. We went 3 hours and all this stuff because, as you can see, this conversation can literally go
Absolutely.
like 3 to 4 hours. Now we
It's easy.
wrap it up and then we hang out in the garage and make sure you guys get home safely, or you can crash at anywhere. We got sped bedroom is taken up by Jack, Liz's brother, who's home from the Army. So shout out to him. But all right.
Oh, wow.
Thirsty.
That's
That's a rocks glass with no rocks, just so you know. Okay. I got you a pint glass. That's full. Here's what I will say from what I'm hearing from both of you, and this is what we haven't really embraced is, and it might sound a little cliche, is the whole positivity of change when you're actually going through it. And Nate brought up outside factors in that question, right? So, about the importance, like what is most impactful, right? That's how you worded that.
Yeah, because sometimes the change is not always up to you.
Right.
So because you can only control your change.
Right.
So that part of change is very, very surface level. When shit happens around you, you lose your job, you lose a relationship, whatever it might be, you're going through the motions and you're not really ready, or you might even think things are going well. You're happy, you're oblivious to the fact that this is around the corner. You wake up on a Tuesday and you're fired, you got broken up with, something else happens. It's not a matter for me that the change starts with exterior factors, outside factors.
right.
The true change actually is what you guys have been talking about the whole time. It's the core. It's you. That's it. Things can change on the outside, Nate, like what you were asking. Like that shit, it's how you respond.
Yeah.
That's not real change, right? Because you can get broken up with. You can even break up with someone. You can quit a job. You can get fired. You can go into a new industry. You're still thinking about, we talk about this on the podcast. We have talked about this in the past on the podcast, is that it truly is, the change has to happen internally. Mm-hmm. And that's where you're talking, Rob, about, family. You know what I mean? Ryan, you're talking about the passion and what you found in all of that stuff. When I said you were scared shitless, it's because you hadn't found that part.
Correct.
The change
Yeah,
isn't
absolutely.
complete, right?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
it really, when I'm listening to you guys, it's truly the fact that you guys are on the latter part.
Right.
It's not done yet, and you might go through other changes.
Sure.
Oh, of course.
But when you talk about building off the positive, the strengths and everything, the weaknesses, it's more of it doesn't matter if you make the transition, you realize that I need to do this, I need to make the move industry-wise. For you, Rob, it's industry, but also the geographic
Right.
change.
Absolutely.
It's the reasons why.
Yeah.
So there's healing that goes into it. There's the fear of the unknown, all the topics we talked about on this podcast in the past. But when it comes to the positivity from change or positivity of change, it's when you actually internally keep that plugging attitude, like plugging away type attitude. It's you were talking about, Rob, whether it be through diet, nutrition, all that stuff. As soon as you actually pull it back and realize I don't know what's important to me, I know what's important to me, I need to figure out what's important to me. It's about you first.
Absolutely.
Because none of the other shit, whether they're the outside factors that are impactful, like you were asking, Nate, it's truly the fact that when do you turn the corner?
You are
when
correct.
do you see that? When do you
Absolutely.
wake up?
100%.
And you guys talk about it when you guys are on the road. You know what I mean? You're still 5 days out of the week. Like, why the fuck am I doing this?
Oh, yeah.
That doesn't mean it's negative.
Yesterday, 3 hours, we had a 3 hour drive, and me and you chatting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shout out to AT&T for having the worst phone service ever.
But the point being is that that's where I see that
Yeah.
bringing all this together. When you the viewers out there, the listeners out there, when you're going through this, you're hearing from guys that, myself included, and I didn't even dive into that because I've talked about some of my personal experience with my previous career, my previous relationships. I'm a person that got fired after 10 years with the company. I got divorced from my college sweetheart, and I went through a bad relationship. I've gone through different career changes, even within my previous career. It's now where I still don't know where I want to go necessarily, but I have a direction.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I turned that corner.
Yeah. Correct.
And it sounds like you guys have too,
Yeah.
which I love to hear. That's
absolutely.
inspirational to me. And I know it's inspirational to people out there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, it is. I mean, because, again, we go through all that stuff that, pulls us back, weighs us down, the stuff that, makes those decisions harder, that where we lose that positive focus on things. And once you get that inward, kind of acknowledgement of who you are,
Right.
where your focus is, where that, even at 42 years old, if you will, where that end game is, that's when you can start looking at things. When I bought my house where I did for a reason.
Still need you over there.
I
Do a podcast from Rob's garage.
we will sooner than later. We absolutely should.
Topic of the evening, how to repair your leaky ceiling.
Let's
Well,
not
all
do that.
the-
We'll do it from the garage. We'll do it from the garage.
the do-it-yourselfers. We need everyone to tune in that night. And also we'll take a donation for supplies and materials.
We'll get a fundme.com moving. But it is. Once you realize what makes you tick, that's the key. We all have certain whether it's money, whether it is me, obviously you get it, family, whatever our success is. Look, I talk about Brian all the time.
So Brian Joyce, the owner of the Tinder Box at Easton.
I thought Brian, he's got a great thing. He really does. What a beautiful spot.
20 years in the making, mind
20
you.
years in the making. He's got
Not overnight.
Exactly. He's built a beautiful thing, and people talk to him all the time, and this. Oh, why don't you move here or do this or do that? And and why?
Open a second location.
Yeah, exactly.
People spend each other's money, or other people's money, rather.
Yeah.
So much quicker and easier than their own money.
I'm
Right?
very good at that.
You
Right.
are you? Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
based on your position. Yeah.
Right. Of course. But Brian is a wonderful example. I have such a respect for him and what he's built, what he's realized. He knows who he is. He knows where he wants to be. And Brian really is the picture of success.
Let me change one word in that. Knows versus learns.
Right.
Learned. He's learned.
And therefore
who
he knows.
Yeah.
Correct.
So he's a couple years older than you. Not many.
Not many.
But again, it's not about knowing who you are. Like that's that bumper sticker. Know who you are and you'll succeed. Learn who you are.
Exactly. You
Then
got
you will succeed.
you got to get tripped up every once in a while.
Absolutely.
You know,
I mean, we all know that. I mean, I would imagine most of you listening, watching know that. It is those trip ups in life that makes you learn. You learn your strengths. You learn where you're going. You learn what you value, and it's about encompassing that and holding that close to heart. And
embracing it, absolutely. It's a big part of it is acknowledging it.
And you know, Brian doesn't need another shop. You know what I mean?
It's not as practical as just like being like in a simulation. We're like, all right, let's down over here,
and it'll be successful.
And it'll be fine by itself. That's not how life works,
right? And he gets that, and he knows that, and he has such a great success.
He does, and
you see that in him when you speak to him, and you see how he cherishes what he has built, you know, and he loves what he has at home, and he appreciates the people. You, Steve, and I'm not saying this because you're sitting next to me. He appreciates, you know,
you're in my house, but yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
You know, the people.
Keep going,
and you and Nate and
let's focus on me a little bit more.
And Ron.
Don't talk about that.
You know,
let's talk about me a little bit more. Yeah.
You know, but he has found that success. You know, people, we all gauge success at different levels. It's finding what success means to you.
Right. But again, going back to, you know, Ryan mentioned earlier that, you know, it's always, there is that financial side of it.
Absolutely.
Taking care of the family, taking care of yourself, because none of the other part is possible, right? You know,
Absolutely.
It's not idealistic.
I mean, look, we live in the U.S. We live in the U.S., man. Money, you know, cash rules everything around me.
Wow.
Yeah, I threw that.
You went there?
I went Wu-Tang.
Okay.
I did.
Do you have something to just like start?
No, stop.
Doing?
Stop. No.
Do you have like a cash machine?
I don't. But I'm going to work on that
Ryan,
next time.
what are your... This is the point where I'm going to say, all right. Ryan, what are your closing remarks? I mean, again, thank you. Before we do that, I will, once again, we'll knock out the sponsors. Thank you very much. Rocky Patel, by way of Rob Wilson, for donating or basically sponsoring this episode, the RP55, which I'm smoking a second one of those, which this is one you can actually light up, and I'm not saying this because you're sitting next to me. You can light this up right after the last one, and it just flows right into it.
Absolutely.
The only thing I'll say about this is that we talked about the Corona size and the size of that band. It's one of those cigars that as soon as you light it up, you got to take the band off. Because it takes up an entire 4.5 inch cigar. I mean, it's fine on the what is it, a 7-inch cigar, the biggest one?
Right.
It's fine on that. You can smoke it for a while, but even this one, you're like, I can smoke it for 20 minutes. I got to take the band off because you just took up the entire cigar with this, which is fine. But thank you, Rocky Patel, for doing that. Tinder Box at Easton, thank you very much for sponsoring every week and having the weekly featured cigar. Altadis USA, we're renewing the sponsorship, and I will say that you'll see behind Ryan's head, if you're watching the video portion of it, is another CLE sign. I met with Nook from CLE, and Tom and Christian are behind it, that they're going to be a year 2 sponsor, which I really appreciate. So they're going to get behind it, and we appreciate all your guys' support. And to be a cigar company, I'm going to make sure that we're smoking those a little bit later, hopefully, or you guys actually have.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So thank you very much. But Ryan, you know, at this point, like, what are your closing remarks after your first Bourbon and BS podcast, based on the cigars? You're not a big drinker, but you definitely enjoyed the Basil Hayden's Caribbean Reserve Rye.
Absolutely.
And then the topic of positivity of change.
My closing remarks, first of all, is thank you, Steve, for letting me be on this show with you guys. Rob, for the invite with Steve here to be a part of this. I think it was a great topic. I didn't know what I was coming into, but I think
Most
the
people
topic.
Don't. Most people don't.
No, it's perfect though, because the topic for me, I think. I come from a different background, so I've had a lot of trials and tribulations to go into my life and inside of this industry, which a lot of people think is a cakewalk. They see us doing events,
Dream job.
day in and day out, and they don't see the struggle of driving and putting in the doors that we have to do.
No, you're a rock star.
And the
you're a rock star.
Yeah, that's all
not
they
being
see.
home with your wife on her
birthday.
Yeah.
So my closing remarks, though, for all you guys that are listening out there that hopefully listen past this, because this stays out there, right? This stays out there.
Yeah, so basically the way this works is, and you need to subscribe as well, Ryan, so when you're on the road, you can either watch on Facebook.
Right.
So Facebook Live every Wednesday. Now it'll be Thursdays for time being. We'll post that. But Facebook Live, and that's when you can actually contribute to the conversation. Which,
Right.
if you've been listening, we bring the community into the podcast.
And we appreciate your questions. I know it's my first time, but
Absolutely.
the interaction is awesome.
That's why we've stuck with this. It's not just a podcast, and it. So then you have the
That is the
iTunes.
community.
Absolutely, iTunes is the audio, so the podcasting on your iPhone or iPad. You also have Spotify, iHeartRadio now, Overcast, basically any of your major podcast listeners,
Right.
you can listen to it. And then also we post this video on YouTube. So
Nice.
if you want to watch it and you're on your, at your desktop or your
wanna see our
laptop,
faces.
you
We're
know,
driving 3 hours across the country.
yeah, exactly. So there, yeah. So
Yeah.
everything stays live. Facebook as well stays live, and that's where we get right now we're anywhere between 2,000 and 4,000+ views each week. And,
Nice.
and that's where the shares help out, because I feel like if you get something from this, and even as a guest, Ryan, this is the first time really hearing about the podcast. Now you've been on it. You might get something from it, and you might know people that will get something
Absolutely.
from it
I'll be
and
sharing
enjoy
this.
it.
I'll
Yeah,
be sharing
absolutely.
this in the future. But for my closing remarks for this episode, keep whatever you're doing out there, keep doing it if you believe in what you're doing. That's the key. If you internally believe in what you're doing and you made that change because you thought it was going to be positive for yourself, keep doing it, because there is something at the end of that hard work. Whether it was Rocky driving around 360 days, selling out of the back of his trunk, or me going to the DR without a passport before I knew,
Jesus.
I had 2 weeks to get one. But no, those changes you make and those struggles you go through, keep doing it. If you really believe in what you're doing in whatever industry you're in,
Absolutely.
believe in it. Own
Absolutely.
it. Own it. Own it. When you wake up in the morning, you feel down on yourself, own it.
Well, that's the thing, bro. And you said it beautifully. And we hear it all the time. And, when you see a celebrity on TV or someone who's made it, and unfortunately, we don't always hold value to what they're saying, because we look at them being movie stars and driving fancy cars. And,
Yeah, what do you know, right?
Right. Well, those guys went through that struggle,
Yeah.
and they do. They say it.
I'm going to say something that's probably not, I don't know, we're on a fucking podcast, who cares? I've had a few Basil Hayden. There's a quote that I keep on my laptop that I always love. Success is like being pregnant. You always tell somebody congratulations, but you don't know how many times they've been fucked.
Right.
Think about that.
What poem is that? So if you guys are big poetry people,
It's
out
not a
there, what
poem. It was just not
it's
it's just not a
poem.
thing
Oh,
on my
okay,
laptop.
okay.
It's like success is like being
Is that
pregnant.
Shakespeare?
I don't know.
It might be Shakespeare.
Might be Shakespeare.
Probably not.
But it is. It's
Edgar
true. though.
Allan
But if you
Poe.
think about
Edgar
it-
Allan Poe.
If you think about it deeply, it's true. You always tell somebody congratulations, but you don't know how they got pregnant. You don't know the end
No,
of
I
it.
know how they got pregnant.
Well, yes, there was a little bit to it, but keep going.
He's a connoisseur. Of
Keep
such
going.
methods.
No
Yeah,
kids.
keep going, because there's something to the end of it, and hard work
Absolutely.
pays off.
Absolutely. Well, and again, to expand off that is always. You have to. With everything
Yeah.
you do in life, you've got to look inward. I say all the time. I always try
Steve,
to grow.
how many viewers you had on your first podcast?
Well, when we first started this, we didn't even have viewers.
So right there you go. So
Honestly,
that-
no. I mean, we
you had
didn't do
2,000
this part
now,
of it.
right?
Right.
So
yeah. Well, last week was 2,000. We've had as high as over 4,000. We have yet to break the 5,000. I'm interested to see. We've had a great response tonight.
what was your first 5 episodes like?
Not like this.
How did you?
It's all
What
growth.
was the hump for you on this? As a positive change, you decided to do this. What was your hump?
It
Where
was-
did
it
you
was-
say that people really want me to continue?
I'll tell you what. No, that's a good question.
Bravo, yes.
So there's two sides of that, and I'll answer that, and then we'll move on to the Rob's closing remarks. Is that it was a decision there, right? To speak to your point, it was a decision to keep doing it, because you talk to people that have had successful podcasts.
Right.
Or successful. It's keep doing it on a regular basis. Don't take breaks. Don't give a week off. Don't do anything. It's always keep a regular schedule. Listen to the viewers or listeners to that, because again, this is a podcast, but most of our traffic comes through the live and the video, right? So, but it was when we decided to, Jake and I. And we had our ups and downs. We did. I mean, at first it was like it went from Whiskey Wednesday, where we were just getting together, putting an Instagram post out there, to actually starting to record it audio-wise. And then it was like, all right, let's try some video. And it was like literally us passing around a card table, the phone, and doing like, getting drunk and be like, hey, let's video record this. Like, this would be cool, right?
Yeah.
And then it was, what the fuck is the purpose of this?
Yeah.
So the content that you're putting out there, what you're getting, Ryan, from it, what Rob has gotten out of it, and people that are listening out there, is like, when we're going to get together, it's not just about drinking whiskeys. It's great to review it and give people an opportunity to like learn what people's respect, like what our view is on something that they might have not heard of, what they are looking at. Well, maybe I need to pull the trigger on a $40 or $50 bottle. You learn that.
A little booze opens up the conversation.
Bottle of booze, that's where we get to. That's why I used to go 3-4 hours. So then it was like the cigar side of it. When it gets to the topic, it's like there's plenty of whiskey reviews, there's plenty of cigar reviews, and I'm not taking anything away from that.
Right.
This is where it really comes together. Why are we drinking whiskey? Why are we smoking cigars? It's not just the enjoyment of doing it. There are people that do it on their own. It's what comes from it. What is the community? What can you learn from other people? And that's when it really turned the corner for us, was when we kind of fine-tuned. We're still doing it, but fine-tuned what is the purpose of doing this every week. Because it's not just drinking a bottle of whiskey and be like, I taste these notes. The bottle looks like this. No, it's we're drinking this, we're smoking this. Now let's talk.
Right. Let's be real.
And that's where it turned the corner, and that's where we're at the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And the followership, the followers has grown.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
Which means you're doing something right.
Yeah.
No, and people want to talk.
Yeah.
I mean, again, we are pack animals.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's what we call cigar life, cigar
Absolutely.
culture. You know, we all get together, we all sit around that table, we put our cell phones down, we get and we talk about life. I had the pleasure of meeting this young man out in Evansville on Friday night. And just listening to him talk was pretty fantastic. Myself and, again, David Wells, the manager of Cigar, we walked away from there and like, what a great young man. You know, what a good guy, and a good, he was 25 years old and just a great.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. And you would have never known by the conversation, because he had his finger on the pulse. And he got it. And that's what we're all looking for. And that's what makes this podcast so fantastic, is because we all, and of course, the bourbon makes it a little bit easier to get real.
That's still a healthy pour, by the way.
That's, I know, and I'm going to finish it.
I'm going to pour a little bit more. And Ryan needs a little bit to do the end.
He does. But, it's what we look for. And, again, it in regards to, the podcast and everything we do in life, man, it's all about learning to be better. It's as long as we look inward and look to make that positive change, as long as that's our focus, and I hope I never lose it. I hope I never lose it. Yeah?
You will. You got to find it again.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's the
Being
key.
honest.
That's the key.
Absolutely.
You know what? Well said, bro. Well
Absolutely.
said. Yeah, you are correct. We will have our times, and I know I've had plenty of them, where I do wake up in a hotel in somewheresville, whatever state. I don't know where I'm at because I don't remember.
It reminds me of a movie. I'm not going to say I like.
But, it happens all the time, and sometimes I'm like, wow. What am I doing?
Yeah.
What am I doing? But then I end up with that conversation with that guy, that young man at a cigar bar in Evansville, Indiana, and it changes me, and it makes me want to keep going on and pushing forward, because I know there's something behind what I'm doing. Well,
and to you met a great person in that experience. Mm-hmm. What I always like is listening to the guy who hasn't figured it out. You get into a lot of cigar shops
has it figured
that
out?
has
not figured.
You know, for me, it's the passion.
A lot of us.
There's
There's
a lot of guys in the cigar world who come in, they're down in their spirits, they bust a cigar open, and they just want to hear somebody give them that advice.
Right.
And the beautiful thing about a cigar lounge, any cigar lounge you walk into, somebody's willing to give it to you, right?
Yeah.
So, but at the
Unsolicited advice is what that's
Yes.
But at the same time, that's another beauty about what we do. And to what you're saying is, you have that guy who comes in, he gets a cigar, and he's like, "Man, I just lost my job today," and you have to help. Not that you have to, but you want to help him by saying, "You know what? Here's another cigar." And here's how we're gonna talk to me, you know,
right.
And that networking, amongst these lounges, but it keeps that passion alive. You can see people on the bottom, and then the next time you go back, you're like, wow, he just got a job at GM. He's a plant manager.
Yeah.
And I'm smoking a cigar with him again, and watch how his life just changed.
Yeah.
Right.
And you say, well, how did you get that job? And he goes, well, I was smoking a cigar last week, and the guy next to me goes, I work at this plant, and I got him over here. And you see that network of cigars take people that you meet one time down
That's
next time up.
That is you, Ryan, being at the IPCPR.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's you, Rob, living with Sean.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's me right now. I was a regular at the Tinder Box and became friends with Brian Joyce that you were talking about earlier, Rob.
Yeah.
And doing 3 hours every other Friday because apparently like running a company was not enough for me. He's like, you're here every Friday. It is about that.
Right.
It's watching and being yourself and growing from the people around you. You're absolutely right. That's such a powerful statement.
Guys, I mean, the thing is obviously, again, I'm going to throw it out because it's my home.
And Jake's watching right now, by the way.
And it's always in my heart. Again, Dayton strong.
Do you hear that? Jake's watching right now.
Hello, Jake. But
we miss you.
With everything that goes bad in this world, there is still so much good. Again, here's my hokiness. There is. And, and one of those great places to find that good is in that cigar lounge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we find those people, we find those friendships, we find those future bosses, the future relationships of whatever sort. And, we focus on the positive. But, again, it all stems from that inward looking.
Yeah.
Again, you got to know who you are.
You got to learn.
You got to learn.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing, man. It's change that word from know to learn.
Yeah.
And I think like this is something. I know we're probably dragging on, and we
yeah.
probably
I still have to
We
get
do
my
that
quick
often.
closing
Yeah,
remarks,
we
too.
do that.
But I'll say this too. This is something that we
We used to
can't.
have we had studio audience that was timing our closing remarks.
I
Because
want
of where
Michelle
we're
to
at.
give closing
Yeah.
remarks.
So this experience of cigars can't be put in paper. You can't put each individual experience in documentation.
No.
And the reason I say this is I'm going to go back to the cigar lover and passion in me. When it comes to the FDA, how do I defend everything we just talked about in one single document? How do I tell these guys
Doesn't translate.
that, I'm 30 and I want to smoke a premium cigar and I want to have that brotherhood, that networking, that sisterhood between sisters of the leaf, brothers of the leaf, to learn, to advance careers, to talk politics,
Right. I
to
got an
be
answer.
inspirational. You can't put that into words. We're not smoking Phillies.
So
We're not 17.
in your
with a
next email to
strawberry.
your local senators,
Yeah.
include a link to this podcast.
There you go.
Well played.
There you go.
You know what? It's one of those things, honestly, self-serving, yet amazingly true.
It's true though.
It really is. It really is,
Because
bro.
you can't put this into words, and these politicians are choosing our lifestyle without really knowing what we're doing for the community,
Right.
what we're doing for third world countries, what's really going on out there.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole thing about support that hand-rolled documentary on
Yeah,
iTunes
absolutely.
and
Get behind
Amazon
that.
right now.
That was Pete
I'm hoping
Johnson, right? Was that Pete?
Pete Johnson was the main
And
producer behind
started.
it.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
guys involved.
Yeah, there are.
Padron, everybody else.
So I just want to wrap up here, and with my closing remarks is a little bit of a summary, but Rob kind of brought it back to what I had said just previously is when you look at the positivity of change, my biggest thing is I realize that I went through a lot of years that I didn't see the other side.
Yeah.
Right.
because I did, to Nate's question earlier, again, I'll bring it up. I thought that was a great question. Is
Beautiful.
At the time, I don't realize that it was that impactful because I was stagnant. I was going through the motions. I was doing that. And because I was doing that, I actually didn't give the 100% that I should have done in my personal relationship, in my job. It was that I was scared of the unknown. We've talked about it recently, but when it on the hindsight, the back end, it's those conversations in a cigar shop or when you open a bottle. We say it. So every time we post the podcast on iTunes, I end it before talking about sponsors is sit down, pour a drink, light up a cigar, and join us in the garage.
Right.
And we have the T-shirt is, and Nate, you might have to help me out on this, but the T-shirt says, pour a drink, light up another, we'll figure this out together. Is that right? Yeah, he's nodding. So that's the saying there. Is that's awesome. Again, I mean that's the whole idea behind it. So when you talk about the positivity of change, and it's you have to listen, keep your ears open, listen to people around you. If you're not having a good time, then that's where you have to figure out. It's not like a relationship. It's not about the fact that I'm not enjoying myself, I have to break up.
Right.
That's an easy exit. That's bullshit. No, there's so much more to that. You don't have to do that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You have to look at that whole picture, and that's where this whole conversation has gone to. And I do want to thank both of you guys, Ryan and Rob, for being here.
Thanks for having us.
I mean, it's been
absolutely.
a killer episode, and I've learned a lot, and I hope everyone else out there has learned a lot. And again, tune in every Wednesday. Now it's going to be Thursday next week, so stay tuned because we're going to keep that posted on the social media. But this is what it's all about, and I want to thank everyone that's been watching and chiming in on the Facebook Live feed because, again, we learn a lot from you guys as well. So it's always something that we want to continue to grow the community that you guys have been talking about so much tonight.
Yep.
And Rob has been here on it, and he's been in the audience. I always love having a Bourbon and BS podcast virgin on here that doesn't know what the fuck he's walking into. So like Rob says is like, hey, you're in town. You want to come over to this guy's house in his garage and talk into microphones? And you're just like, I didn't have any other plans. The quick answer is no, but okay.
Yeah.
And then we sit down and have a conversation. You're like, oh, this was easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you guys for the support. Jake, we'll see you next week. We're going to have Jake Sanders back on Thursday night with Eric Goldhaber. We're going to be talking about self-image. So I really think that we're going to learn a lot from that. And Rob, I think you're going to chime in a bit more than you say you are.
Yeah, I will. And, I just want to say one last thing.
All right.
And,
there we go.
And all the craziness that, we've been dealing with a lot lately. And, again, being a homeboy, dating strong.
Yeah.
Just be nice to people.
Yeah.
We had, so last week, you got to tune in last week. AJ, it was last week, right? AJ said last week in his closing remarks, go out and compliment someone.
Absolutely.
Nice.
It was such a good sentiment. And that's the T-shirt right there.
Absolutely.
Is go out and compliment someone because when you do that, you do something for yourself by getting yourself out of your own head, and you talk to another person and you actually bring them out of their own head.
Right.
And that's huge.
It's something we've lost a lot of. So the more we can spread that, the better.
Absolutely. Michelle, South Detroit is Ontario, Canada.
All right. All right, boys. Boys and girls, thank you so much. Whiskey and Bourbon and BS Podcast. Say whiskey. Bourbon and BS Podcast, episode 80. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers, gentlemen.
Thank you.
And ladies out there. Nate, thanks for all the support.
Appreciate you, brother.
Have a good week.